Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the KeenGamer podcast. My name is Kyle, and we are back from a very brief hiatus for the holidays, and we've got a very special show for you today. Before we go much further, though, let me introduce the guest. You've heard his voice before. It's the great Mark O'Callahan. Mark, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. I've been, not to spoil the topic of our conversation, I've
Yeah,
been begging you, can we talk about Marvel from last year? And you're like, yeah, fine.
I'll think about it. You messaged me like I had 50 missed messages from you in my inbox. I thought, you know what? I should probably read these at some point. Oh, wait, this is a good idea. I want to do this. So we are not going to be doing anything about games today. We're kind of taking a break. It's our first episode back in 2022. Let's start with something new, something fresh. And like Mark was just saying, we'd been talking and we thought it'd be a good idea to go back and rank all 9 MCU releases of 2021. For those of you who are unaware, that's five TV shows and 4 movies that they released. They were very, very busy in 2021. I
They
will
didn't have
say
anything in 2020.
nothing in 2020. So you're right. They crammed everything into last year, and I also think that there's going to be a lot in 2022 as well. But we'll get there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Just up front, we're going to try our best to keep spoilers to when we're talking about the product. So we're not going to spoil Hawkeye unless we're talking about Hawkeye, or we're going to try to anyway. So just a general spoiler warning for all MCU properties of last year. And before we start, I kind of wanted to ask you, Mark, if you were to give Marvel a grade score, if they gave you their essay and said, hey, Mr. O'Callahan, here's all the TV shows and movies we made, what would you grade it?
Well, first of all, Disney, you can just call me Mark. We're casual. Second, I'm going to give it an A plus.
Oh, really? No complaints.
I mean, yeah, like we'll definitely talk about some of the like complaints and issues, but you really think about this, like when they introduced Disney Plus and not like actually like putting it on platforms, like the concept, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have Star Wars shows, we're gonna have MCU shows that are with direct characters from the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna get Loki, you're gonna get Wanda and Vision, and then making that. So just trying to like put that on air, and then boom, 2020 happens, nothing aired. So trying to cram as much as they did, then you got the second half of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like putting this in theaters. Are we sure about this?
Yeah, it was a bold year to say the least. And like you were saying, when they announced the concept of Disney Plus, I was worried that they wouldn't be able to convince these big movie stars to go do a TV show. Like, I'm trying to think of when has Elizabeth Olsen ever done a TV show? When has Paul Bettany done a TV show? Like, these are almost new mediums for these actors, and the fact that they were able to convince them to give it a shot. Like, we're gonna tell, a story with your character that you've played for the last 5 to 8 years, and we're gonna do it over, 8 to 10 episodes. And I think that was very bold, and I'm surprised they pulled it off as well as they did.
You know what? Let me change my grade. I'm going to give it an A minus. I forgot about the
Ooh.
Scarlett Johansson lawsuit.
Yeah,
I
there's a
want to give
comma
it
out
an
of
A.
place.
So A minus.
A minus, and I think I agree with you on the A minus. It was a great year for Marvel. Maybe not the best year. I think it's hard to top like Endgame. Was that 2018, 2019? Must have been 2018. But it was a 2021. I think will be looked back as the beginning of a new era for Marvel, which I think is very
Mm-hmm.
exciting. And I think without further ado, what we're going to do on this podcast is we're not making one list. I asked Mark to create his own list, ranking all of the Marvel stuff. I made my own list. We're going to start at the bottom, make our way up, and see if we can maybe, by the end of this podcast, come across a consensus best Marvel thing of 2021. That's kind of the goal here.
We can,
But
yeah, we can definitely do it.
yeah, I think, you know what, there's a chance that our number ones are the same and there's no debate to be had. We shall see. I think I'd be surprised if your number one was my number one. But
Really?
yeah, I think I have a pretty bold number one. Before we start, let's just kind of recap what we're going to be talking about. So we have the 4 movies that came out this year, and that's Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Spider-Man, and Eternals. And then there is 5 TV shows: Hawkeye, Loki, Falcon Winter Soldier, What If, and Wanda Vision. So full spoilers up ahead for all of those things. We're going to start the show with Mark telling me what his least favorite Marvel thing was of last year and why.
And I just want to put this disclaimer, even though this is last and like the bottom half of this list, they're still really good.
Yeah, this is not saying that these are awful pieces of entertainment.
Yeah.
Our last place Marvel things are still probably better than, some or most things that come out to theaters and TV shows.
When you're making a list, something has to be last, and that is Marvel's What If.
Yeah, these aren't bad. These are just the worst of the bunch in our opinion.
And what if this was number 1?
Was that a spoiler for your number 9?
Yes.
Yes. So what if is your least favorite thing from Marvel 2021?
And the concept is genius because Marvel What If comics, it's free range, out of continuity, exploring, hey, what if Flash Thompson got bit by the spider? What if, and all these different scenarios, what if Uncle Ben lived, Aunt May die? What if, just going on, I don't know why I'm focusing on Spider-Man.
There's so many good story arcs.
Like, what if Thanos was part of the Avengers? I think that's a recent one. I haven't read it, but they're kind of advertising it on Marvel Unlimited.
What if in Endgame, Ant-Man became really small and just jumped really high up Thanos' butt?
They should have done that.
That was missed opportunity right there. The only real way to defeat Thanos, I thought, was with Ant-Man going inside of him, but I was wrong.
I guess you had to sacrifice Tony Stark. Spoilers for Endgame.
Yeah, no, if you're listening to this, I assume you've seen Endgame. I'll hope you've seen Endgame. Before we talk about like why What If was your least favorite, what was like your favorite part of What If?
The variety of episodes.
Yeah.
Because I think they started conservatively, and you kind of had to, like, what if Peggy Carter got the super soldier serum? And basically that episode was like a redone of Captain America, the First Avenger.
Yeah.
But then the second episode, we're going to get really weird. What if T'Challa was Star-Lord?
Yeah.
And it just continued and continued.
One thing about What If that I'll say just really quickly that really helped elevate it in my mind was how much Chadwick Boseman we got in What If. I thought he maybe recorded like 2 lines of dialogue for the entire series. He's in probably half the episodes, I think. Or like less than half.
Yeah. I thought it was just that second episode. But then he kept popping up and popping up.
Yeah. I was so surprised by how much Chadwick we got. And I was overwhelmed by almost emotion by how just great of a character actor he is.
Rest in power.
Rest in power. So what were the so you liked kind of the bold episodes. What were the low ocean floor parts of What If for you?
So I really wanted it to get out of continuity.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like each episode had to tie into each other in little ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it was kind of not done in the best way. It was just okay. But
do you think you would have preferred if the entire show, all 10 episodes, or sorry, 9 episodes, because one got cut, the Gamora episode,
yes.
Would you be happier if all 9 episodes were just standalone and they did not tie in together whatsoever? Or did you like that they tied in the last couple episodes?
I liked how they tied. I mean, the end product of what we got was great.
Mm-hmm.
I think just how we got to that road wasn't the best.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a bumpy road, to say the least. I really liked the Doctor Strange episode. I wasn't as high on the zombie episode as a lot of people were, though I still do love. I still like the image of Happy being dragged away by zombies saying "bam, bam, bam," or he makes gun effects when he shoots his guns. It's really funny.
Something that Happy and I have in common.
Yes, of
bam,
course,
bam, bam, bam.
As we all should. What If? I really appreciated just kind of how bold it was, and we'll see. I may have enjoyed it more if it was just 9 What If episodes that did not tie into each other. If it didn't rely on that narrative structure, it may have been able to get more willy-nilly or free with its concepts and ideas.
Exactly.
But I do think they kind of executed the ending pretty well, especially with something like the Watcher breaking the fourth wall and like coming into play against Ultron. I thought that was fantastic.
Now, out of curiosity with zombies, is it because you're sick of zombies as general, like a little fatigue from that, or just the episode itself?
I think if they were going to do zombies, I'd rather them go into it without humor, which is really hard to say for it's a really hard critique for that Marvel Cinematic Universe to don't be funny. But wouldn't it be cool if there was like a genuinely tense and almost scary episode of these characters trying to survive, almost like a Walking Dead or a Dawn of the Living Dead? Like I didn't want this episode to be Shaun of the Dead. I wanted it to be more serious in nature, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Also, I was not a fan of Ant-Man's talking head, literally, in that episode.
You know,
I thought he was too chatty.
Something that we also have in common. But I'm happy they didn't go like a full adaptation of Marvel Zombies, because that is dark.
Did they announce that, though? Are they doing a whole Marvel Zombies thing at some point?
They announced on Disney Plus days they're coming out with a spin-off. I don't know if it's going to be set in that world that we saw, but Marvel Zombies. And if you haven't read the comic, like, basically all your favorite superheroes and villains are zombies.
Yeah.
They're still hungry, but once they eat, they kind of regain, but they're still like driven by hunger. Yeah. And Captain America has like half his brain exposed, and it's great, but it's like creepy.
I can't remember if they do this in the TV show. When a zombie, like say a zombie bites the Hulk, that zombie does not get Hulk powers all of a sudden, right? Like zombies don't inherit powers from the superheroes they bite. That'd be a cool concept, but I don't think they do.
I think if a Hulk zombie can use its strength, but I'm trying to remember if zombie Doctor Strange used its powers.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. I can't remember right now.
Or
if, like,
zombie Iron Man. By the way, I love the running gag of like, let's just kill off Tony.
Like, was it like 6 out of 9 episodes involved Tony Stark dying a horrible death?
Yeah, Hank Man causing all the problems.
Yeah. Trying to think about what if in general, if you were to any expectations for season 2, because they are doing season 2 of What If. I believe that's confirmed.
They will, and I think maybe even the Gamora episode will be a part of that season 2.
I would love to see that. So I guess 2-part question. Number 1, any expectations or things you want to see from What If season 2? And then part 2 of the question is like, what characters or what stories would you like to see told in season 2?
Ooh.
I would love to see what if Uncle Ben got bit by the spider. I think they could have a lot of fun with that.
So far, that's okay. I won't go into that, but like, I was surprised they actually mentioned Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
In that episode.
Yeah.
But I feel like the stories I want to see are characters that haven't been introduced into
the Marvels,
world.
Into the MCU at all. Okay. Mm-hmm. So like Fantastic Four or
Fantastic Four, any mutants.
Yeah. But give me a what if Rhino was a good guy.
What if that would be great.
Voiced by Paul Giamatti, of course.
I want to mention, but I'm like, that might be a spoiler.
Oh, okay. But yeah, what if in general, like the stories you want to see from a season 2 are going to be the new characters, the new heroes for the franchise.
Yeah. And I trust the creators, like, hey, whatever you throw at me, I'm all in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they did a great job with their concepts, but I'm not worried, but are they going to do a continued storyline of season 2?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you top season 1's threat?
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it's like a reboot. I hope it's like, hey, first season, that happened, but we're going to tell a new story, new characters, new bad guy, whatever they need to do to make What If season 2 a lot more appealing. I'm in for. What If is not my number 9, and I want to say this now, so don't forget when I get to What If on my list. Mm-hmm. I was very impressed that they got a majority of the character actor or the voice actors to come back for their roles. Not all of them were fantastic as voice actors. I want to point out Sebastian Stan specifically. I don't think he was great at all as a voice actor.
I think in the first episode, he wasn't good.
He was very stiff.
But in the Zombies episode, it was definitely an improvement.
Yeah. So I do want to say that it was awesome how they got most of the actors to reprise their roles for the show. And even the actors they didn't get, like Scarlett Johansson for Black Widow, they got some really great talent, like Lake Bell as Black Widow in What If. I think was really, really well done. I really liked her performance in that role.
And I know people are speculating, like, why wasn't Brie Larson part of it? I think maybe it was just like a contract thing in the beginning.
Yeah,
Probably. I don't want to speculate. Like, she's going to be in the Marvels. So
yeah, yeah.
it's,
Like it could have been scheduling. It could have been if they were doing remote recordings for the audio. It could have been she didn't have equipment. I have no idea what it could be.
yeah.
But Mark's number 9 is What If. We will circle back to it at some point. We won't spend another 10 minutes on it like we just did, but when we get to it on my list, I'll say why I like it so much. Number 9 for me, and I'm going to gauge the reaction based off Mark. My number 9 least favorite MCU thing of 2021 was Black Widow. I don't know that. I don't think that's controversial. I don't think that's controversial.
That's not a, like, spit take.
For me, it's number 9 because it just felt so weird watching it after the events of Endgame. It just felt like it came out at the wrong time, and that's always been my stance on Black Widow. Is that it should have come out post Civil War, pre Infinity War, and that's what I think. I thought David Harbour was a lot of fun, but he was kind of just playing a David Harbour character. The best thing that Black Widow had was Yelena. Like, the introduction of Yelena as a character, played by Florence Pugh.
Pew pew.
Perfect. I loved that so much. Everything else about Black Widow, even like down to the small details of like them constantly singing American Pie to each other, it felt inauthentic to me to say.
So I'll jump ahead. Black Widow is actually my number 8.
Perfect. Yeah. So we'll knock this out. We'll get this out of the way, this conversation. Yeah.
So keep in mind, like, this was supposed to come out in May 2020. We already got like all like majority of the advertisement, and then it got pushed back. And then it got pushed back, and it got pushed back for very understandable reasons. But it definitely had a fatigue. So by July 2021, I'm like, yeah, I'm excited. It's definitely in theaters, but I'm like, is it going to be good? And I was surprised how good it was for my low expectations.
I really liked a lot of the cinematography. I liked the action sequences. I just think as a Marvel movie, it was probably one of the more forgettable ones I've seen. And they also made choices like they introduced a character who's only in this movie. Her like technical assistant or her like government guy. Yeah, he's kind of just there. And like, are we ever going to see him again? Did we need to meet this guy? It just felt like a lot of, why are we here? Besides meeting Yelena.
And especially like, Yelena Florence Pew Pew is obviously the best part.
Yeah.
Of this, I did love David Harbour. I love the family unit. Like, those scenes were great, and seeing like some of the flashbacks, but like more of the pieces, did make me appreciate Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, who I already loved. But I'm like, man, I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah, and I agree that like the family stuff was intriguing. Like I said, I didn't like the American Pie stuff at all. I do think Marvel did something better last year with the family mantra than Black Widow did, and I'll get to that when I get to that. But I do think as my main critique, like what was the reward for watching Black Widow? I found out why she had a haircut and a jacket in Endgame. I mean, now that all makes, oh my god, I'm like Charlie Day with the red lines and the board behind me. Like, it all makes sense now.
I knew it.
One other critique about Black Widow I have is its portrayal of Taskmaster, who, I'm not a comic book reader. Mark has informed me a lot about characters and stories from the comics, but Taskmaster was in the 2018 Spider-Man Insomniac game, and I really grew to appreciate that character in the game, but I felt like they just gave her nothing in Black Widow.
I have the opposite opinion, because I'm like, Taskmaster, like going beforehand, like the fight sequences with Taskmaster was good. And I'm not saying like, whoa, I'm blown away, but now I want to see more of the character of the Taskmaster.
Me too.
Not so much of like, also the action, but I feel like the character like is just there for like convenience. Yeah,
it felt like a shell of a character. Like, it didn't even feel like a full-fledged person behind that mask. It just kind of just felt like, even though we saw the face, right? It just felt like a hollow shell of a, hey, here's something that you can punch and kick, Natasha.
And that's how I felt like reading comics and probably with the game, even though great sequences,
Hmm.
just Taskmaster is always there. Even in Marvel's Avengers,
Yeah.
that he's a prominent villain, he's just there. But at least in this one, like after Black Widow, I'm like, oh, what are they going to do with Taskmaster?
Yeah. I wonder, and I hope we see more.
I think the Red Room was a little disappointing.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, it was like, oh, it just wrapped up like that.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you get.
Yeah.
I remember enjoying the opening scene where you're seeing the family as American plants for Russian spies. Like you see them going to American school and biking home. You see David Harbour without his big beard, being like a good old American dad. Like I like the intro. It was once the family broke up that I was like, man, I wish that they were just a little bit more compatible throughout the years. And I also like stuff with Yelena and Natasha of like them not talking and like they seem so close, but then I feel like there's always like a lack of communication between them, not even within Black Widow, outside of Black Widow. Why do we never hear about Yelena specifically in moments before this and like Avengers and stuff? Yeah.
And not to, I'm gonna give like a non-spoiler. Like, I'm happy like a character after Black Widow acknowledged that connection.
Me too.
Like, okay, and you can definitely make your own headcanon and it just makes sense of like why they never mentioned it.
Hmm. But
But
for
yet
me,
again,
there,
Black
yeah,
Widow has always been like secrets.
yeah,
And that's why I was like, the concept like, oh, she has a sister. I'm like, yeah, okay, like how is this gonna work? And I'm like, I get it.
yep, I get it. So we got Yelena. Like I said, I should probably rewatch it. Like I said, it was one of the first things that came out last year. I think it was like March 2021. So
July 2021.
it was. It came out July. That's crazy to
Yes,
me. That's
I'm
crazy to me that it
pretty
came
sure
out.
I'm right. 2021 was a long year, so that's why
2021
just
July.
releasing when I initially gave that A plus, now A minus, just like July, Black Widow, September, Shang-Chi, November, The Eternals,
I
December. So second half, 4 big movies.
I
Think
can't
about that.
believe Black Widow came out in July. I could have sworn I was like in my pajamas watching snow fall outside while I watched it. I could have sworn it was like
Well,
winter.
you do live in Canada, so I wouldn't be shocked.
I mean, it snows till August, and then we get a bit of sun, and then it starts snowing in September again. So that is historically true of Canadians.
Judging by a New Yorker,
Yeah.
observer.
So I don't know if there's much more for us to parse out of Black Widow. I got most of my complaints out of the way. Any
Same
last
here.
minute thoughts? Yeah, like I would like to go back. I would like to rewatch it and see if my opinions change in hindsight, because maybe I went into it with too high of expectations.
You see, I came with low expectations. I enjoyed it, but again, overall, in the context of what we've seen this year,
Hmm.
it's still number 8.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. So that was your number 8. That was my number 9.
Mhm.
I'm gonna reveal my number 8 now because you just did. My number 8 Marvel thing from last year was Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which to this day I have a very hard time thinking of on the top of my head. I'll be at a bar talking to a friend about it, like, yeah, that show, Captain Falcon and the Ice Climbers, or like I can never remember what it's called, even though it's just character names. But that's my number 8.
And that is my number 7.
Wow, this is working out in a interesting
Very
way.
convenient. We didn't, trust me, we didn't talk about our list at all.
No, we. I think I knew your number 9 going into this, and that was it. So Falcon Winter Soldier is definitely, I think, in my opinion, the worst of the TV shows. I definitely enjoyed What If personally more than Falcon Winter
Mhm.
Soldier. Falcon Winter Soldier, I think, probably suffers from the same criticism as Black Widow, where it just kind of seemed unessential or inessential. You can watch the next Anthony Mackie movie, and it will pick up where his character left off at the end of Endgame. At the end of Endgame, he is taking the shield. He is ready to embrace being the next Captain America. It's not until the TV show that there's all that conflict about like, should I be taking the shield? Should I be representing this country? So, and at the end of this series, he takes the shield again. So there really isn't really a huge character. There was a character arc in that TV show, but not for Falcon becoming Captain America. I should say that was always there at the beginning, and it was there at the end.
watching all of like the shows, I'm totally fine with it being week to week.
Hmm.
That's a good model for him. I feel like this show should have been binged.
Yeah, I totally agree. Having 6 days between episodes, I kept forgetting what was happening.
With the exception of the episode when John Walker, he kills the guy and it's revealed the shield, the bottom half is covered in blood.
That's like maybe one of my favorite shots of the year, actually.
That is like, that got people talking.
Yeah. Yeah, that was controversial. Just the imagery of the blood all over the Captain America shield. Like that's so evocative, you know?
So watching it again as like when you binge it
Hmm.
is a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still good watching it from week to week, but I'm like,
Hmm.
it flows a lot better.
Was one of your issues, well, one of my issues anyway, was that I feel like they overbloated it with villains in terms
Mhm.
of John Walker, in terms of curly-haired girl who was in Star Wars, in terms of the sorry, what is her name? The peace broker, the broker,
Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter. Yeah, what do they call her? Her like her hidden name, her bad guy name.
I think that kind of leads into your criticism is a little forgettable.
Yeah,
Like,
like there's a bunch of kids who were born as super soldiers who are trying to bomb something. Like I said, Sharon Carter's doing her thing. Julia Louise Dreyfus is telling. It's so many. It's just oversaturated, in my opinion.
in fairness, the Julia Louis-Dreyfus would have made more sense because keep in mind, May 2020 would have been Black Widow. You
Hmm.
saw her at the end credits.
Yep.
And then it would probably have been August 2020 when we saw the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. What about you though? Like, what were your negatives for Falcon and Winter Soldier?
I think I mentioned it like the week to week
Yeah.
it was a little too much bloated, not with villains, but just like, did I care about the boat?
Hmm. Yeah.
Like it was nice to see Sam's like home life,
Yeah.
but it was like a little too much time. But I'll give the edge over What If because there's a lot more scenes that I'll go back and watch again and again.
Yeah.
And I think it has one of the best costumes in the entire MCU.
Yeah.
Sam's Captain America outfit is incredible. And like the intro in the final episode, he flies with his wings, he throws the shield, it cracks, he breaks in, and just that amazing music
Yeah.
plays always sends me chills. And it was with the red light, and someone asks like, "Who are you?" And then like that character transformation without a hit, he's like Captain America.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't disagree with you. I think the costumes in the show were fantastic, and I also think one of the pros for Falcon Winter Soldier were the fight scenes. Like when they're having that when it's Bucky, Sam, and John in the factory and they're all having a fight. I think it's at the beginning of it's right after he does the shield thing on the guy. The
It's
next
beginning
episode
of
begins.
episode 5, yeah.
Yeah, man, that fight scene with like Sam's flying around, they're throwing shields at each other. Every punch is like bursting through a wall. Like you could feel the impact of every blow in those fight scenes. And that's what when I'm watching like The Raid or John Wick, I want to hear a thud when somebody gets hit, you know?
Also, did you remember Don Cheadle was in the series?
How could I forget? He was up for an Emmy for it.
But yet again, and I should have wrote this down. That's the prep I should have done with all the actors. The guy who played Isaiah,
Yes, he was great.
who also voiced, I'm pretty sure, Martian Manhunter and a lot of the DC stuff.
Oh, Marvel taking DC's cake again, huh?
Yet, yeah. But that whole storyline and the conversations about race,
Yeah.
and it's you kind of get it with Endgame
Hmm.
of his hesitation. Like, I feel like it belongs to someone else.
Hmm.
And yeah, they could have gone like he's Captain America, but when they made that transition in the comics, people did not like Sam, and I don't mean like the readers. I mean like people within the story
Oh.
were against him. So I do like the importance of like what the shield stands for.
Hmm.
Basically, John Walker can stumble, so Sam Wilson can fly.
Yeah. And you know what?
And
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
John Walker Like that character did such a great job of
Yeah.
making you hate him, but also kind of sympathizing with him.
He's not a full on antagonist. He's not like 100% across that line. He has like one toe or maybe a foot on the protagonist side of things still, it seems.
So that's why taking the shield, like comparing it to like Steve Rogers,
Yeah.
a lot of people's like favorite character. And just like when he has the mask on, from a guy who also has a very punchable face, he has a punchable face.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. Wyatt Russell was killing it.
He very underrated.
Yeah, very underrated.
And
We
seeing him go on to be a US agent,
mm,
like in the future, I feel like we're gonna have like a Dark Avengers someday.
I could see it.
And if he is back, amazing.
Off the top of my head, I could be forgetting someone, but of all the new characters introduced last year through the MCU, he's like up there for the what's his next story? What's his next arc? He's like
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like characters that were introduced in Hawkeye and Eternals and whatever else, like John Walker is like way up there for I just want to see what he does next. Because that could be a
Yeah,
very tragic and intriguing arc.
because he wants to do good. It's not like I'm gonna destroy his legacy.
Hmm.
He wants to do it, but he's just way over his head.
Yeah.
And just like that super soldier, like he still wants to do good, but it kind of like corrupted him in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Like he was too passionate for it that he ended up, selling his morals down the river just to accomplish his goal. And
Mhm.
then the lines of what is good and what isn't good just become gray.
Exactly.
Before we move on, we talked a lot about Sam, but I do want to talk about Bucky as well because this is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He was there too.
Was
What
he?
do you think? What do you think about Bucky's arc in terms
It
of him
was.
looking for redemption?
It was good. You know what? It was pretty good.
Yeah,
But I feel like this is more of like the Sam Wilson show, but it wasn't them together. And you
yeah,
do had some amazing scene. The staring contest comes to mind
yeah.
in some of the conversations, but I feel like they should have used more of Sebastian Stan.
I agree so too. I feel like Bucky was really just the Andy Richter to Sam's Conan O'Brien. Like
Exactly.
he was on the couch. He'd ask the guests a couple of questions every now and then, but for the most part, he was just there. I did really enjoy his arc about hanging out with the father of the guy he killed many years ago. There's the
Yeah.
older man in the bar, and he's like going to his house and taking care of him. And
Mhm.
then I think it's episode 3 or even maybe 2 that you find out that Bucky killed his kid because the old
I
man's
think it's
venting like,
probably episode 1 at the end,
okay, yeah,
and maybe you saw like the flashback in
the
those
flashback
episodes.
because the old man's saying like I had a son and then just one day I never heard back from him and like Bucky knows the entire time he's living with this guilt. He's seeing a therapist and trying to get better, but
That Zemo is
Zemo,
always good.
yes, how did we not talk about Zemo? Oh my god, he was
Come on,
amazing.
let's do the dancing.
For anybody watching the video version, go to the 33:53 second mark for some good dancing.
For the audio version, and maybe you
Yeah,
don't want to watch it.
yeah, I don't have my strobe lights installed right now, but next time.
I feel like Ratchet from the GIF when it came out with the Rift Apart when it did it. I think it
Can
was
you
better.
can you remind me how did his story end? Did he get arrested again and sent back to jail? I don't remember.
He got sent to
The raft, right?
no, he was taken away by the Wakanda soldiers.
Oh yeah. Oh right. Wakanda showed up at one point. Remember? God.
Exactly, which is great. And I know they're having a I think just a Wakanda show. I thought it was Wakanda Forever, but that's going to be the title for
Black
Black
Panther
Panther
2.
2.
Yeah, whenever that comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what? The more we talk about it, Falcon Winter Soldier might end up over my 7th at the end of the day. Who knows? Falcon Winter Soldier was your number 7, correct?
Yes, and I'll and that was your number 8, right?
That was my number 8.
I'll bring a. Here's the thing about like Falcon that will make it stay at your number 8.
Okay.
Sharon Carter,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
like
Didn't
the
care.
reveal of like I'm like, wait, didn't we already know this? Like, this is the big reveal.
And like having to listen, like, and like you said, because this was a weekly show and not like, hey, here's a whole binge, just watch it all at once. I had to wait like 5 weeks and listen to podcasts that were just like, oh no, it's Sharon Carter, she's the bad guy. Like
Yeah,
by episode 2 of every podcast about the show I was listening to, we had figured out what she was doing and why she was there. The Shadow Broker, is that what they called her? The Shadow Broker?
the power broker.
Power Broker. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like it's Sharon Carter. She's the bad guy.
Yeah.
I wish they gave her like a lot more. I do like the reasoning. Like, hey, when you were blipped, I was still like a fugitive from the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Just
crazy.
okay, that makes sense. It's like you're gonna give her more, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm trying to think. There was one show that had a really good interpretation of what it was like to experience the blip, but nope, that's WandaVision. It's WandaVision. We'll get there. I couldn't remember if it was this show or a different show.
Two
Wanda,
shows, but we'll get to that.
yeah, well, actually, one show, one movie, I believe. Actually, no, you're right. Two shows.
Two.
Two shows. You're right.
I mean, Spider-Man: Far From Home, like, did show the blip, but it was
Yeah.
more like
Yeah.
like for the lows.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about now. So that's my number 8. That's your number 7. Let me get my number 7 out of the way. My number 7 is What If. It was never going higher than 7. Like I said, the stuff I really enjoyed from that show, I really, really enjoyed. Dark Doctor Strange, just the voice acting, the characters, the stories, just how creative they were able to get with it. I really loved the Hank Pym kills all the Avengers episode. Like that to me was like, what a dark and kind of like unpredictable ending to that whole thing. He said hope one too many times, but besides that, I enjoyed it.
The Doctor Strange like goes bad episode, one of the best things that the MC has put out this year.
I totally agree.
Fantastic.
And I know people who hated that episode, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think the way it dealt with emotion and the fight scenes were good, and just Doctor Strange as a character has slowly become one of my favorites over the last 4 to 5 years.
And you have Rachel McAdams, and I feel like in the Doctor Strange movie, it's like, was she even there? It's like, why would you waste her? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, she's coming back for the second Doctor Strange. It's like, okay, this episode sold me on that.
Yeah.
I felt like you actually felt like their chemistry. You felt why he wanted to basically destroy the world and himself in the process. And this actually leads back to like, I wish they actually weren't like interconnected.
Yeah.
Oh, look at my slippers. It is freezing cold in here.
Hey, no worries.
So at the end, the Watcher finally breaks the fourth wall to the world of how, hey, it's your fault. Because Doctor Strange is like, I know you're there. And he's like, I can only watch.
Yeah.
And then he brings her back. He's in that monstrous form. He leaves. And then she dies around the world.
Yeah.
And it just, he's screaming like, I'm sorry. And it just
Cuts to black,
fades. Right? And just that piano music hits. And then boom, you see like the concept art. If they didn't interconnect that, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I will say this. We might potentially see that version in the Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah.
But if they would have just like ended it right there, it would have been incredible.
Yeah, what a like just like a tragic ending to a story. Like what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? Like what a simple premise, but it explores such cool dark territory, and I really just loved it.
And there was still good humor in that.
Yeah, it was still funny. It wasn't like Party Thor, everything has to be a joke funny, but
I loved Party Thor.
I liked Party Thor.
Because just the flavor text I had of my Thor wants to party all the time.
Oh my god.
It's the proudest I've ever been writing. Which is kind of sad looking back on it, but kind of great.
I remember like whenever I saw that caption, I just like smiled every time. It was really good.
just that, and like because Chris Hemsworth is surprisingly like really good as a voice actor, and featuring Natalie Portman. Like again, like she's coming back as Lady Thor, and we're all excited for that.
Yep.
But seeing them like interact in this episode was like, all right, now I'm really, really sold.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, what if number 7 for me? I did not see it going any higher than there, no matter what happens. It was a really good first season, and like we were saying earlier, you were talking about it. I think that there's a lot of potential for season 2 moving forward. So that aside, we are both at our number 6s now. So Mark, I'd like to hear what your number 6th ranked thing of MCU last year was.
So my number 5 and 6 were tough because honestly, they were interchangeable. Like 1 through 4, I got it. But 5 and 6, that was really tough. There was a lot of pros and cons. And I'm like, just because it's 6, does that make it like worse? And a lot of head games. And I'll explain why number 5 was 5, but number 6 was Internals.
It was Eternals. Interesting. Okay.
The most underrated MCU film, solely because really, what's the Rotten Tomato score? Like low 30s, 40s,
I think
50s?
when I went to
It's rotten.
Metacritic, yeah, Metacritic, I went to it recently. It was like 55 or 54 still, which is atrocious in my opinion.
And I'm not just saying like compared to other MCU movies, looking at you, Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2, but this movie was incredible, and it's definitely Marvel's like most risky movie yet.
I agree.
Because I know people say like, and it's kind of true, like they don't give creative freedom to directors.
Hmm.
Granted, they have a lot of moving parts, so
Yep,
I can kind of understand that. But they gave Chloe Zhao, I hope I'm pronouncing that right,
I
a
believe so.
lot
Yeah.
of freedom, and just like the natural light and the cinematography
Yep.
was gorgeous.
One of my favorite parts about watching that movie was being like, "This is not a green screen. Oh my god, they're actually in a jungle right now." Like
Exactly.
the on location shooting does so much for me, especially after watching like a Black Widow, where every shot is either a close up or it's like panned so far out so you can see all the CGI happening in the corners.
And I'm definitely fine with that. It was all
Yeah.
movies look pretty, but it's like you can tell how much hard work they put in it
Hmm.
just to get these shots.
I think more so than other things on our lists, there was an ambiance and an atmosphere that like oozed out of Eternals when I watched it. Like between like just like the morning fog or like being on the island at the end or everything. I felt like I was there with those characters.
And it matches so well with the score of it.
Hmm.
And the Eternals theme it was definitely on my Spotify Unwrapped.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and just all the music just really emphasizes that. Like it's a gorgeous movie you can just look at.
Yeah.
And not only that, the ensemble, like look at these guys. You got Richard Madden, you got Gemma Chan, you got Salma Hayek,
I
you got
know.
Angelina Jolie,
Yeah.
so many others. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. An incredibly talented cast of actors in this movie. Like every single one of them nails their performance. There is no weak link in the bunch, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So those are some like good pros for why it's your number 6, but what are some of the cons that kind of weight it down compared to everything else?
I would have to explain that with number 5 because it wasn't with really the movie itself. It
Okay.
was just like two aspects of my number 5 entry
Yeah,
propelled it up.
I see. Well, let's do this. Let me do my number 6
Mhm.
because my number 6 you haven't talked about yet, and maybe your number 5, and then maybe mine's the bridge, but maybe my number 6 is your number 1. So I don't know.
You got it.
My number 6 was Shang-Chi.
That was my number 5.
Okay, so this is going to work out very well for us then. Perfect. So back to the question then. Why do you think Eternals was ranked one spot below Shang-Chi?
Two reasons. One of like, wait, really? That's the reason? But I'm like, yeah, that's actually a reason. It made money. And let
Yeah.
me explain that. I don't know how true this are. A lot of trades reported. Like Disney was riding on this movie to be a huge success.
Hmm.
And that's a lot of pressure, especially having uh this superhero that not a lot of people know,
Hmm.
not a lot of actors that you would know.
Hmm.
And especially like that was the point. And again, 2021 is such a long year. I think that's when the Delta variant became
Yeah.
super prominent. So it's like not on Disney Plus, only in theaters. Is it going to make a profit? And it did.
Yeah.
And you might say, like, well, why is that important? Why is that important? We got Eternals in November. We got Spider-Man in December.
Yeah.
Because if that movie didn't do well, they would have pushed it back.
Yeah. You know what? You're totally. I didn't even think about like the financial brain behind Disney is like, you know what? There's a lot more behind this marketing and release dates than meets the eye. You know.
Like, look at I almost said Inception. Look
Oh.
at Tenet,
Ah.
July 2021. No one's like, hey, I'm gonna save the movie industry. And Warner
Yep.
Brothers is like, okay.
Yeah. Give it a shot.
And spoilers, I love Nolan, but he did not save the movie industry.
No, I heard he. I heard he missed.
Yes, and that's why I went to Universal.
Yeah.
But that's when like a lot of like movies were on that bubble. Like, should we release? Let's look at Tenet. It
Yeah.
didn't do well box office wise, and I would just say Tenet's amazing. Go
Hmm.
watch it. It's on HBO Max. But then a lot of movies you just saw like, hey, we're pushing this back. We're pushing this back. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna push everything back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if Shang-Chi missed, that's what would happen.
And like you said, I think they rolled the dice, and I think they got two sixes. Like I think Shang-Chi is like just what you say about it being a character nobody had really heard of. You have this Canadian actor from Kim's Convenience who nobody's really ever heard of, and for it to have kind of captured the zeitgeist the way it did after it came out, I'd say between a lot of people I knew were talking about that bus fight scene, not butt fight scene, bus fight scene.
And that's why it's my number 2 reason why it's over number 6.
The bus fight scene.
Yes.
Oh
Not the
wow.
buff fight scene, the bus.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, that was
The music that plays when he's doing it, like just like the it's so good.
the Jackie Chan influences
Oh yeah.
that was in it were incredible. And when I saw like the first trailer, and granted it's like the teaser, like, all right, I'm excited.
Hmm.
And like the second one, I'm like, I'm still excited. But then they showed a clip from that, and I'm
Yeah.
like, in. And watching it unfold and just how it unravels and unravels, it was
Mhm.
just show's already going on. It's not my
Yeah.
apartment, it's just the bus scene.
Yeah, and what's especially interesting about that scene is that there was a different movie from last year that had a very good bus fight scene called The Nobody with Bob Odenkirk. This
Very.
Shang-Chi one trumped the Nobody one. Like the Nobody one is really
Nobody
good.
is underrated movie.
It is. It's a good movie.
Yeah, but of course, the bus scene from Shang-Chi nailed it.
Everything from like the way he like takes off his jacket mid-fight, like somebody grabs him by the back and he just like lets arms slide out of the sleeves.
Yeah, and he uses it and push it and just in a smooth move, like
all
puts it
while
back on.
Yeah, all while at the same time like having a conversation with his friend, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm a badass superhero. Don't tell anyone." Blah, blah, blah. He's like conversing with her and being like, "Okay, you go drive. I'm gonna go outside the window and through the thing." And it is
just that banter. The actual villain, I mean, not interesting, but just like
the Razor Fist, or is that his name?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like just seeing that and like how that interacts with the bus
Mm-hmm.
and the vendor guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he has an official name, but from Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, the guy who's
do a flip.
the guy who's like live streaming the fight, being like, I do karate sometimes, but
Yeah, and he's like, he's looking, and he's like, I'm rooting for this guy. And then he puts out the razor. He's like, never mind.
yeah, no, that was it's really good, and I think the action pretty much carries that movie all the way through. Same reason why I liked Falcon Winter Soldier. And back to the bus scene, going all the way back to like the hallway scene from Old Boy, like something about having a fight scene in a tight, narrow space is so much fun. You can run up walls, you can throw people, so much you can do in a narrow space for fighting.
They loved it so much. Look at all the like the Netflix shows. All
Yeah.
Daredevil to Defenders. You got to have a hallway fight.
You gotta have a hallway fight. You gotta have a hallway fight. That's the rule.
Yeah.
Um,
Mostly like, hey, if you have a hallway fight or something in a tight space,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a good product.
Going back
Except,
to
season 1 of Iron Fist.
oh, we don't talk about Iron Fist around here. Around these
Season
parts.
2, yeah. Season 1,
Boo.
no.
So one of the reasons that Shang-Chi falls in number 6 for me is because I don't think I enjoyed the second half as much as the first half, and I'm not sure if that's a pretty common critique of that movie or not. I'd say pretty much once they pick up Trevor, I'm like, wait, what is this movie doing? I was really enjoying it as like an almost standalone. It's a Marvel, but not it's not like pushing Marvel Easter eggs in your face the entire time. And then Trevor shows up, and I'm like, oh right, Marvel. So maybe that's just me, but
Now I'm thinking about it, the Wand and Abomination scene,
oh,
which
that's
yeah,
cool.
they put in the trailer, but just that little aspect of like, hey, you want a little part of those punches, and then it's like revealed they kind of like planned that,
Yeah,
and that goes back to the Dark Avengers. Like,
yeah.
okay, we got U.S. Agent and Abomination.
So those are things I would have missed, but like those clues are there. But for me, it was like I'm enjoying this like fun martial arts like buddy comedy movie, and then I see Ben Kingsley, and I'm like, oh,
And everyone was talking like this is supposed to be the redemption of the Mandarin.
mm-hmm.
And not to delve too much into Iron Man 3, but as people know, like that whole controversy, and then they try to like step back, and it's with that little short film, All
The
Hail the
one
King.
shot or All Hell King. Yeah,
Yeah, or short one shot, exactly.
yeah,
All Hail the King. It's like, no, the real Mandarin is pissed.
yeah,
And just seeing that context, and it's not like I am the Mandarin. Like he even makes fun of that mantra. Is like they named me after this.
yeah,
Really?
yeah,
But just seeing that character, and when he at the beginning, when he's introduced to his wife, and that kind of
mm,
fight, romantic allure, a beautiful scene,
yeah, totally.
and like the music, like Shang-Chi's like theme, which if you notice is it uses elements from both his father's theme in the
Yeah,
music and his mother, so it's like this dynamic beauty, and it just merges beautifully together.
like just like the melody, the do
Yeah,
do. It's
it,
so like
it's like I'm watching the movie.
it's uplifting. Like it feels really good. But going back to my criticism of the second half, I loved the like the fist to fist, like the hard punching combat, whether it's the bus or the scaffolding, which the scaffolding scene is also really good on the side of the building after their arena fight with Abomination. The
Mhm.
second half, I think I love Eastern culture, and I loved the idea, once again, spoilers, of dragons fighting each other like that. It got like a just a bit too CGI heavy for me. I really liked the fist like kung fu. I didn't like big dragons.
So you say like after Trevor was introduced, and I love Trevor
Because
because
once they pick up,
I love the character of like, yeah, they were gonna kill him, but
yeah,
hey, this guy's funny. Let's just keep around for entertainment. And he's
yeah,
like, yeah, this is like his dream. And like that weird little creature, which it's like Disney, we're gonna sell toys.
I love that weird little creature. I love the weird little creature. That thing's amazing. I don't know what's its butt and what's its face, but that doesn't matter because I love it. Um, it
It's
was
like
like
Snake Eats Tail.
yeah, I'd say like not even like Ben Kingsley. Right when they pick up Ben Kingsley, because it was funny when they did that. It's
I
once they're
get like, oh, this is an MCU movie. I
mhm,
think when they killed off the Mandarin,
mm,
and then boom, it's like he's fighting the dragon. I'm like, all right, now it's like
yeah.
CGI, and I'm like, is this movie wrapping up?
And the CGI was really good. I actually
It was.
saw it in IMAX, which I don't really do, but it just kind of worked out that way. And it looked gorgeous, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm watching the same movie I was 50 minutes ago.
Exactly.
It feels like I'm already watching the sequel. It feels like the sequel to Shang-Chi was the second half of that movie, where if they would have
Interesting.
kept if they would have kept the entire first movie a little bit more grounded and about the family issues and about kung fu and like just like hand to fist combat, and then number two they can get more into the mythological side of things, that would have been cool. But maybe that's my take on it.
I get that. I love the post credit scenes.
Oh yeah, those are
A,
good.
we got to see Brie Larson, and I'm like, oh, that's why she was in the post credits. Not for that. The director of that has worked with Brie Larson before.
Oh cool.
I forget the movie that she did before The Room when
Wasn't
she won
Scott
the
Pilgrim?
Oscar. It was like involves a number, but
Hmm.
that was like his feature, like
Okay.
that, and like basically we got a promo for what I'm assuming is the Ten Rings Disney Plus show.
Yeah.
They never announced it, but it's
Yeah.
coming.
Also, can we talk about how the movie is called in its full title? It's called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Did we get any part of the Legend of the Ten Rings in the movie at all? Was there any lore or history besides like they were found and they were
I
used?
think it was just they were found and how they were used, which they were
Yeah.
great on how they were used.
Because kind of spoiler alert, I was playing Guardians of the Galaxy the game, and there's a part of that game where you go into a museum of the collectors, and you get to see a bunch of stuff, and you get to see the 10 rings are in that museum. Of course, they're actually like finger rings, not wrist rings, but there's more of the legend in that item description that I think there was in the entirety of the movie.
I never thought about that.
There's no
But yet
legend of the 10 rings. We don't know where they came from or
can
why they're
imagine
here.
like, yeah, the movie was all about the Legend of Ten Rings, but where's Shang-Chi?
Yeah, yeah, precisely. But let's move on. We have our top fives each to go. We'll
I
talk
have
about
my top
Eternals
four.
again. Oh right,
Yeah.
oh right, because Shang-Chi was your number
Five.
five. So my number five. This might be controversial. It's WandaVision.
I'm not gonna say I get that. I'm gonna assume what your criticism is, but you go ahead and talk about WandaVision.
To this day, I still wake up at about 4 o'clock in the morning, eyes wide open, thinking about how mad I am about Ralph Boner.
Yep.
I hated that so much. It deflated so much of the show for me. I was so excited for Evan Peters, his version of Quicksilver from X-Men First Class and Days of Future Past. I wanted him in the MCU. I did not want Ralph Boner. I don't even know who that is.
I love the meme of like the Thanos, like all of that for a drop of blood. It's like all that for a boner joke.
Oh my god.
That is, it's.
And go ahead. For me, it's number five. I love the concept. I love television. I've loved TV ever since I was a kid. So seeing every episode embrace a different format of television, whether it's like the Brady Bunch or it's Modern Family or whatever, Malcolm in the Middle, I loved that kind of meta stuff. It was the last two episodes that I just don't think they nailed the ending.
And I'll talk about the positives when we get to
For
where
sure.
it's on my list.
Yeah.
But yeah, the criticism, and a lot of people have this, is how it ended. You
Yeah.
mentioned the Ralph Boner, and it's like they could have just left it vague of like, hey, we don't know where he came from, and he like disappears. And it's like, okay.
It
But
just
this
feels
was the second time they kind of dissed us with the multiverse.
yeah.
First from Spider-Man Far From Home, it's like, but you kind of understand because, like, of course, Mysterio is going to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
They will let you know, like, hey, I'm actually from the multiverse. His like cover story, and it's like, nah, I'm not from the multiverse. It's like, okay, we get that. And then the second time, it was like, nah, I'm a boner joke.
But it was so intentionally trolly. Like the fact they cast Evan Peters, they like if they would have just cast the guy who played McLovin from Superbad or Jesse
He would be
Eisenberg.
Well, oh my god, if he
Like
that
the
would
issue
be
is
amazing.
the issue for me is how specifically let's cast Evan Peters as Quicksilver just to reveal like just the whole premise and concept of it I did not enjoy it.
The ending, like, not fight, like, there's a lot of good elements I'll definitely go into. Like, just how it ended, it was like, not like, oh, I wanted more, I wanted season 2. It's like, that's the
it?
note you're gonna end on?
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, it's the same as Shang-Chi, where like the last episode was this big CGI fight in the sky, and I was like, oh,
Exactly.
there goes all the human qualities of the show that I was really enjoying, and now we're in fighting in the sky. I really did like going back to Agatha's like coven of witches in that last episode and kind of getting more backstory there. Besides that, it was mostly forgettable to me.
I don't mind the criticism of like how evil WandaVision is, because it was a back and forth thing. Like when you're watching it, like, is Wanda doing this? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care about the Mephisto stuff. I know everyone was like mad about that. It's like, oh well.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't mind, like, yeah, she was actually under control.
Yeah.
But
Like I said, another pro I'll give it is I love the performances from Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen. I think their acting in the TV show has been maybe better than any of their acting throughout the movies. Like I'm glad
100% agree. This is their best performance and very Emmy worthy.
100%. I think it's the fact that they have these 8 episodes to flesh out their characters instead of a 2.5 hour movie where they are 1/16th of the spotlight. if that sometimes, right?
Exactly. Like, not only it's a spotlight with like their own movie, and I'll definitely mention this when we get to not this entry,
Hmm.
but another show.
Yeah.
Like, you actually, like, how do they get these actors like their own shows when they don't do TV? Two
Hmm.
reasons. One, money.
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston probably loves money.
Yeah.
And two, probably like the like, hey, not only you're gonna get your own project, it's your own show. We're gonna really flush you out. And
Hmm.
as we've seen with like Falcon the Winter Soldier, they're getting their own movie, Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know that promise and like a bunch of other things, but this show really sold like, okay, MCU shows, they're
Hmm.
gonna work.
And that's the thing too, is like this was the first one. This was the first Marvel TV show, and I think it set a really, really high bar for everything coming after it.
Exactly.
Especially like conceptually, like the idea of like, okay, it's gonna be Wanda and Vision, and they're gonna be going through every decade of television. Like that's so cool. I want more ideas and more TV shows that have kind of a unique twist on them.
And just even like the concept, like, yeah, Wanda Vision are getting their own show, and they announced
Hmm.
it after like Infinity War, and it's like, um, how
Yeah,
he's dead,
yeah,
and
and
it's like that overall mystery. It's not like this is the premise, like this is the premise, but yeah, you're gonna be confused.
yeah, for sure. And that's why I was glad to have podcasts to listen to kind of like go through all that stuff and like this character could be this thing. Here's some theories going forward. And kind of like one last thing, like WandaVision could move up because it's not like a one and done TV show. We are going to find out. Like we left Wanda at a certain part of the last episode of that show, and we're about to see where we're picking up in the next Doctor Strange movie. So I do want to see what being in Westview has taught Wanda and her kind of acceptance of Vision's loss, how that makes her stronger. So I do want to see what's next for Wanda. I think it did a good job setting up her next kind of narrative arc.
Exactly. Like, there's so much things like the end credit like tease for this movie,
Hmm.
um, TV show, but it was like, you know, she's in her like in the mountains, you see her at peace, but then you go further and she like kind of like an astral projection,
Yeah.
like she's like Scarlet Witch, like boom 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 with all the spells, and you hear like her kids like
Timmy
screaming.
Asami. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like not even Vision, like she had kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
There's
yeah,
legit humans running around with
so it's
powers.
exactly like, and they even mentioned like that in the trailer, like Westfield. So there's definitely going to be like some major, I'm not to say consequences, but major
Hmm.
ties. It's not like, I hope it's not like, hey, remember that thing in Westfield? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, that one off thing that happened.
Yeah.
One last thing before like we'll get back to WandaVision when you name it on your list, but I really
Mhm.
enjoyed the citizens of Westview. There is like some really quirky and fun characters, not just like Agatha, but like all the people that she would interact with and that Vision would interact with at his desk job and stuff. And like almost they were funny, but they were also sometimes terrifying when they were like snap out of the hypnosis to be like, get me out of here, I'm so scared, please help me, and then they'd snap back to, hey, welcome to Westview, it's all good and fine and dandy here.
Like
Like
in episode 5, yeah, like he's talking to
yeah,
someone in his office, and then I don't know the actor, like even that bit part,
yeah, like
that
that
actor did
guy's
such a great job
yeah,
of just being like terrified, like you're the Avengers, and Vision's like, what's going on? And then all of a
yeah,
sudden he goes back, and he's like crazy. But
yeah.
we'll definitely talk about that episode when we get to
Yeah,
my entry.
I enjoyed the setting, I enjoyed the characters. For me it was like those last two episodes with that fart of a joke, and then like kind of the action heavy final episode made it kind of forgettable for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, but we still both have our number fours ahead of us. Mark, what do you have at number four?
So this is like the top tier Marvel
Yeah.
1 through 4, in my
Before we
opinion.
before we get to top four, there are currently three things that we have not talked about at all. So there's a
That's right.
pretty good consensus about generally. There's one thing I talked about that you haven't. There's one thing you talked about that I haven't. But in general, I'm glad that we kind of agreed on some of these heavy hitters. But
I'm gonna guess. So my number 4
mhm.
is Hawkeye, and I'm
Okay,
gonna guess that is your number 1. You don't have to tell me now,
I will not tell you now.
but I, so I mentioned like characters that should have gotten their own show.
Hmm.
Since the Matt Fraction comic run of Hawkeye, everyone was saying like Hawkeye's got to get his own show, not even his own movie, just like Clint needs like his show on Netflix.
Yeah.
And then when they announced like the Disney Plus, like, hey, this is what's coming, and yes, there's gonna be a Hawkeye show.
Hmm.
Perfect. And taking that Matt Fraction run, like not like heavy adaptation, but just like
Hmm.
heavy elements from that. Amazing.
Is Kate Bishop a huge part of that arc?
Yeah, Kate
Yeah.
Bishop is like, trainee of Hawkeye. And just when they announced, or it was like rumored at the time, like, hey, Haley Steinfeld is going to be Kate Bishop, I'm like, that's perfect casting.
Yeah.
They nailed it. And just seeing that, like, she is definitely like my favorite new character of the year.
Like I can't think of a single actress who I could see doing that role better. No one.
It's odd, maybe Selena Gomez.
Yeah, like for a moment, Chloe Grace Moretz came to mind, but I don't know. Um, Real quick with Hawkeye, it's not my number 4. It's a little bit up higher. I won't say if it's 1 or not. It was the
Mhm.
biggest surprise out of everything we're talking about today. I think I probably had the lowest expectations and was blown the most out of the water by Hawkeye.
Absolutely. Well,
And that's from
I
a
had high
yeah.
expectations, and somehow they met that.
And my perspective is somebody who does not read the comics. So
Mhm.
unlike you, who's like, oh, I love this story, I love these characters. I'm kind of just like, Hawkeye,
Exactly.
the
Like
fifth Avenger.
that comic run was like, oh my god, Hawkeye or just Clint and Kate are amazing.
Pizza
And
Dog.
Lucky, that's when it was introduced. Lucky the Pizza Dog.
Nice.
So, and that goes for you, Kyle. Like, if you've not read Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon, do
Hmm.
yourself a favor. If you love the show, you'll love that.
Fantastic.
And they even have the tracksuit mafia. Yeah, bro.
Oh, bro.
I was surprised they actually had that. The instruction of Echo.
Yeah.
And
Echo is amazing. Yeah.
I know we said no spoiling other entries, but
Go ahead. Yeah.
this is a small spoil. Okay, this is a big spoiler. Something that happens in the first 20 minutes of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Let's
That
go
allowed?
for it. We're
All
opening
right.
spoilers, or just if you say a spoiler, just try and say spoiler before you do so.
So that's the thing. They we don't know if like the Netflix shows are part of the MCU. For a lot of time, it wasn't. That's why they canceled it
Hmm.
because a lot of the stuff was going to Disney.
Yep.
But they brought back Matt Murdock
Yeah.
and Winston Fisk,
Yeah.
Charlie Cox, and Vincent D'Onofrio. Oh my God, they did it!
That must be crazy for people who like. I had not watched those shows, but for
You
people
have
who
not
watch,
watched Daredevil?
I watched the first half of the season, and then I think I was watching it in bed before falling asleep, and it was just like one of those I fell asleep to it one night kind of shows.
Yeah, do yourself a favor. Anyone,
No,
watch the first 3 seasons of Daredevil. You can also watch the Defenders that takes in between seasons
yeah.
2 and 3. But
Like you're saying, between Spider-Man and Hawkeye, I feel obligated to watch Daredevil at this point. I feel like I really should, and not only because I've heard good things, but because these characters are now coming back in a new way.
and it's not like, hey, Wilson Fisk is in the MCU. No, no, no. This Wilson Fisk, or at
This
least
Wilson
this
Fisk,
actor,
this Wilson
is
Fisk also wears a Hawaiian T-shirt, which I don't know if he did that ever in the TV show Daredevil, but man,
no.
what a look!
He pulls it off. He
He pulls
pulls
it
it off
off.
better than me.
I'm gonna shave my head, start wearing a shirt like that around.
I would say I'm also going to gain weight, but I'm like, oh yeah, 2021
Oh, wait a minute.
has also never.
Yeah, post holidays, right?
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
December 2022, I'm like chiseled chin. I
Yeah.
look like someone from like Too Hot to Handle. Right now, I'm like too.
The adaptation from the comic that you read and then the TV show, is it like 80% in common? Would you say it's like 90% with some small changes?
I'm not going to say like the story.
Sure. Actually, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but like the tone, the banter, the trick arrows, like that's
Oh,
episode
yeah.
3, the car chase.
Oh, the
Oh
car
my god,
chase scene, that
in
single camera
season
shot.
3.
Yeah.
And like the
That
first
yeah.
2 minutes, like just what how they just kept it on that one take.
Hmm.
If they kept it on that one take, it would have been like a top 5 action sequence in the MCU.
If you'd have told me before Hawkeye that I'd be watching it and a scene from Hawkeye would remind me of the movie Children of Men, I'd say you're
Like,
crazy.
exactly.
There's no way that will happen. Oh wait, there's a single camera shot within a car as action's happening around it. Okay, that's just Children of Men, and that's awesome.
And just like everyone in the cast hits, even the surprising supporting characters.
Oh my
I
god.
think his name is Griff. Like I've
Yeah.
heard of the actor.
Yeah.
I'm blinking on the name, but like very like comedians
Hmm.
like know him and he's very funny. And I'm like, I can't wait to see him in the future. Just the whole LARPers
As somebody
subplot.
who's a big fan of Better Call Saul, I can't tell you how stoked I was to see Tony Dalton in this show, just hamming it up. Like when I say hamming it up, this guy is hamming it up.
And it's like, why would you say that he's hamming it up? I'm like, look at the mustache.
Yeah.
That's a dead giveaway.
And the
And
accent, his mannerisms.
and it's like, you know how like something's building something, like we mentioned Wanda Vision, and it's like, oh my god, Evan Peters is all for a boner joke.
Yeah, yeah.
This one it's like, and yeah, he is kind of like an anti-hero but mostly a villain in
Hmm.
the comics. Like basically he's just a big dork,
Yeah. And I think
and I love that.
I think going back to Falcon Winter Soldier, where I was like, there's too many new characters. I couldn't remember any of their names. I don't know what their motivations were. Too many bad guys, too many new good guys. Every new character they introduced in Hawkeye, I was like, ooh, who's Vera Farm? What is Vera Farmiga doing in this? What is your motivation? What is your from the mom to, like you said, Griff, to all the side characters? I genuinely enjoyed everybody they introduced in the show. Um, I didn't love Kate's mom as much. I love the actress, but
Once episode 5, because I'm like, all right, so you just have her, like that was a big theory at the time, like everyone was saying like, oh, that's Wilson Fisk.
hmm,
But
yeah,
this one was like, maybe it's her, I don't know, like what's her role, but like seeing someone who's like working for Fisk
yeah,
and like all the motivations, but like now like I re-binged it,
hmm,
and like knowing that knowledge makes it a lot better.
interesting. I got to go back and read these graphics. These sound really great.
And I know like one of the only fears I had like going into it, like, oh, it's gonna be like very holiday centric.
I enjoyed the holiday
Me
theme.
too.
Yeah,
And maybe because there's a lot of like basically like a lot of punch with bow
hmm.
in the advertisement, which I get it.
I mean,
But
if you
like
yeah, if you look at
I love the
Marvel,
line
go
like
ahead, go ahead.
the mom, I this is such a mom thing to say. Like, would you really arrest your mom the day before Christmas? Is something my mom
Yeah,
would say. And I was like, oh,
she'd say
hit
it
her
like
with the guilt trip.
say it while grounding me while she's in handcuffs.
Exactly. But I know people complain about like how Wilson Fisk was handled.
Hmm.
I don't understand like the strength. Like, yeah, he's a lot stronger
Yeah.
compared to the Daredevil show, which granted he was already strong.
Yeah, I heard he like cut a guy's head off with a car door or something. I don't know. I hear a lot about this through osmosis, but
He did, and it's amazing.
okay, okay.
But and just like a lot of the angles like made it seem like just like the purple and the white suit. He
Hmm.
did wear the Hawaiian
Yeah,
shirt in the
yeah,
comics, and I think it was actually like Vincent D'Onofrio wanted that because
yeah.
that was his like phone screensaver or his like laptop screensaver.
Is it like I
So,
want that as a shirt?
well, yeah, he kept it like when he was playing it on Daredevil,
Mm,
but then like when he actually came back, he's like, "Yeah, I want that," and they're like,
yeah.
"Okay, say
Whatever you
MCU,
say.
you can do that," because the Netflix one is super gritty
Hmm.
and like very grounded in a kind of way.
Yeah.
But like, come on, guys. Of course, Kingpin survives. Oh, and Echo. Oh my
And Echo is
gosh.
like what a star. Like what
This is
a
her
just
first acting job.
yeah,
And she nails it out of the park. And now I'm excited to see an Echo TV
TV
show.
show. 100%. Like her choreography, the emotions on her face for a deaf character. She says so much through her body language that you couldn't write dialogue for. It feels and of course she has ASL that she uses to communicate and everything, but
But
like
even like the expression, like the man, like
disappointment and anger, like those are things that really show on her face.
yeah, like face acting and like hand acting as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Or
Echo
I
is
mean, it
fantastic.
just as an actor as well. And I love how they brought back like Hawkeye's like deafness
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
that was in the comics. And
Yeah.
it's like how did it end up that way? And it was a montage of like all the things in the MCU that's happened to him.
Yeah, and I think Hawkeye out of all the TV shows may have actually been like the most heartfelt as well. And I think specifically to the scene of he gets a call from his son, but he doesn't have his hearing aid in.
Yes.
So Kate has to write down what his son is saying on a whiteboard for him. And just like you can the sound design is as if you are in Jeremy Renner's shoe, as if you're in Clint's shoes. Everything's a little bit muffled. You can hear somebody talking, but you don't know what they're saying. That to me was like probably the closest they got to like almost tears watching an MCU show this year.
And Rogers the musical.
Oh my god, that's the most fun I've had watching an MCU show this year.
That was like guys, you guys are so spoiled with your
Yeah.
post-credit scenes. Let them have a full sequence.
And I know I noticed it when I saw No Way Home, but in the opening scene of No Way Home when he's swinging away from the crowd, you can see advertisements for Rogers the Musical on buildings.
Just the little sprinkles that they have in the MCU makes
Yeah.
everything go round.
One thing, just in general, with the Marvel stuff from last year, it is in no way chronological. Like
No,
Spider-Man is not like Spider-Man would have happened before Hawkeye because that takes place in like September because he's going back to
exactly.
school. That one thing I have an issue with is the timeline. That's why Black Widow is so weird to me. Um, Other examples as well, but I really liked Hawkeye being this kind of like end of the year. Here's your festive, fun, emotional, funny Marvel show.
An amazing action. I feel like the only criticism I have that I mentioned a lot in my reviews, and I feel like the score was lacking.
Yeah.
Christoph Beck, who did the Frozen scores,
Hmm.
not like songs, but he did the score, which is
Yeah.
amazing. He did the Ant-Man movies, which are
Okay.
incredible. He did Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So he's so talented. And it's not like, oh, he wasn't like trying. I
Hmm.
felt like they were doing a lot of like public domain Christmas stuff
Yeah, they were doing Deck the Halls and everything
and like the
else.
Nutcracker, but even like I compared it to John Williams in Home Alone. He
Okay.
used
Yeah.
public domain, but like setting up the traps, like
Yeah.
uses that, but like his own twist that makes it feel like its own thing.
It's like his variation of the melodies that you know.
Yeah, and it's all like,
Yeah.
oh, it's John Williams like Nutcracker. It's like, oh, this is part of John Williams' score for Home Alone.
Yeah.
If that's my only criticism, which
That's
I
not
know,
bad.
like talking about like Loki and other entries in WandaVision,
Hmm.
I might have like a bigger issue.
Yeah.
But the positives are so much, but we'll get to that.
Hawkeye is
So
still
yeah,
on my
that's number
list.
4.
Yeah, Hawkeye is still on my list. We'll circle back to it at some point, whether it's one like you predicted or two, three, four. We'll find
Mhm.
out. It's not number four. I'll tell you that much. My number four is something that we have not talked about yet, and that's Loki. Loki got a show. Remember that? Remember when they gave Big Bad of the first Avengers movie his own TV show?
Yeah, because the fangirls was like, we want more. And Disney's like, well, we do like money and viewership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shoo.
Wow. So that worked out.
I got
So
that.
Loki is really, really good. I really liked a lot of Loki. I think the casting, everything from Miss Minutes to Owen Wilson to I don't remember the female TVA, like the boss's
Agents.
name,
Or
like
like the boss. Like there's also
the
the agent.
the boss
You know what I
lady
mean?
who had like a relationship with Owen Wilson, and
Yeah.
yeah, so like, I thought those were all great. Going back to what I was saying about how all this stuff is unchronological, Loki should be the last thing out of all of these things, right? We haven't seen what happens after Loki with the multiverse truly opening up.
Hmm.
correct? Because when I
Yeah.
saw the end of Loki, and I saw all these streams opening up and things intercrossing with each other, I was like, oh, this is why No Way Home happens. Or, oh wait, this is why another multiverse thing happens. But so far, we haven't seen any of the effects of Loki's finale. Everything
I'm
from
fine with like
yeah.
a jagged timeline. I understand the Black Widow because it's like this is the first thing we're seeing in a while
Hmm.
from the MCU, and it's like
Yeah.
this movie, even though it was great,
Yeah.
but it's gonna make like there's a they will have like an MCU, and they already do, but like when they add on like the MCU chronological order,
Yeah.
so it'll be like Captain America: The First Venture, then
Of
Captain
course.
Marvel. So just seeing that, like it adds to the replayability,
Hmm. I
and
just
I
remember
do,
like
yeah,
I remember being a
I
little
understand the
confused.
criticism.
Yeah, because I think Loki ends with like Jonathan Majors, Kang gets killed by is it Sophie? Is
Sylvia.
Sylvie? Anyway, we'll call her S for now. When S kills Kang, you see this like big white light, and I thought when I watched the post credit scene of Venom, and they're hanging out in that bed in Mexico or whatever, and that big flash of yellow light happens. I thought that was the Loki stuff bringing Venom into the MCU, but it was the Doctor Strange Spider No Way Home stuff or Far
Yeah,
From. Oh yeah, so I
that yeah.
I'm I liked Loki, and I'm not even getting to the points I liked about it. Just the one thing is that like this is the last thing I think chronologically we've seen in the MCU. We have not seen the after effects of Sylvie killing Kang, and I want to know what happens next so badly. But I liked Loki because of the casting, the characters. It was creative as hell. There was a crocodile version of Loki. There was like old classic '60s Loki. How
Oh,
can you not
so
love
good.
this? I know it's still on your list, but what were your overall thoughts on Loki?
It was the only criticism I have. And it's not really a criticism. It's like, man, I have to watch this on a Wednesday, not Friday. It
Yeah,
works better for my schedules with reviews, but it was incredible.
yeah,
It was like it felt like WandaVision took a lot of TV. Like it felt like a TV show.
yeah, totally.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier felt like this is an MCU movie.
Hmm.
Loki felt like a corner of the MCU that we have not seen. And it's like, oh, this has been here the whole time. It's like, no, it's incredible. The TVA, the whole mystery,
Hmm.
like everyone's saying, like, that's Kane, like he's doing it. And it technically wasn't the Kane that we know of, Kane the Conqueror, but it
Exactly.
was all that and like how it sets up big time for phase 4.
Hmm.
So I have a feeling Kane is going to be the big
Yeah,
bad.
I think Loki can go up on my list once I see the results. Like for me, it's
Okay.
like I just want to see what happens next. Don't leave me hanging. And especially like the show ends with the Kang dies. Owen Wilson like leaves his office and it's like no longer the TVA. I don't remember exactly how this works, but like it becomes pretty apparent that everything is different now.
Yeah, and they kind of warned like, "Hey, we don't want to go over the red line." It's like, why? And then it's like, because that's like breaking the multiverse. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh my god.
yeah. Which is why like when I'm watching like No Way Home and some No Way Home spoilers, but when like they're at the final fight scene on the Statue of Liberty and you can see the multiverse cracking and you can see all the other Spider-Man villains, I'm like, I thought this was the Loki stuff. I don't know.
Exactly.
It's so weird, but I love seeing that stuff, and I want to see the full result of Kang's this version of Kang's elimination and how it brings the other Kangs in and how it brings other characters in, like maybe an actual Quicksilver. Um, yeah, Owen
Exactly.
Wilson, fantastic. I love Owen Wilson. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. So hearing him get an MCU or he was going to be in the MCU helps boost it up like 3 spots on its own.
Like, I love Owen Wilson as me, but he's a great actor.
Yeah.
And it's like when they're not the star of the show or
Hmm.
the movie, it's like how much are we gonna get like of this character? Not like screen time, but just like progressing as like a character.
Hmm.
And I think he steals the show.
Yeah, I totally do too. I think Tom Hiddleston is great, but I think Owen Wilson is like what I was more interested in seeing about what his character is doing. Somebody who's worked at the TVA for so long and starts to kind of like go astray. What happens to that character?
I felt they
Yeah.
had a better chemistry with him and Loki than Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
They were.
there's good dynamic, and we've seen it
Yeah.
in the past, but like this one of like this buddy, co-worker, kind of trust but kind of don't trust.
Hmm.
And
It was funny
how
too.
great
Like,
of it
yeah.
is he as a character? When episode 4, you think he dies, and everyone thought he died.
Hmm.
Like just the corrective like heartbreak
Yeah.
that you felt on the internet.
Yeah. No, I thought he was gone. I was like, no, what? You can't do this
I
to
was like,
me.
no, no. And then it's like he's alive, and usually
Yeah.
like MCU kind of cheats out death, and it's like really, but I'm like,
Yeah.
yes,
I think when it comes to like even like something like Hawkeye versus Loki, Hawkeye was very down to earth, took place in a world in a New York that we know, where Loki was just like it got a little freaky sometimes. And I think I really just appreciate Marvel, you know, entering territory it doesn't normally enter and somehow finding success in that.
exactly.
Yeah. We'll talk about more about Loki whenever it comes up again. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is WandaVision.
WandaVision. So, okay, back to WandaVision.
Yes,
So,
WandaVision.
so good. So, what about WandaVision helps cement it as your third favorite MCU thing of last year?
So I mentioned before when they announced WandaVision, just like they're getting their own show. It's like, hey, how's that going to work?
Hmm.
They never explained why. But yet again, when it was like a Disney investment day or like that Disney 23 Expo,
Yeah.
something like that. They're kind of showcasing like Disney Plus as a whole and a concept art of WandaVision leads. It's them in 50s garb, and they said like, oh, it's gonna be like very sitcom-y, but like how much?
Yeah.
And just that, and that sold me on the show. And
Interesting.
then the trailer with Twilight Time playing
Yeah.
is one of the best trailers I've seen in the MCU. It raises so many questions with showing a lot
Hmm.
that I'm cracking my own voice.
Oh my
It's so
god.
good.
Yeah.
But just seeing like that's when the MCU got freaky.
Yeah. It
And I
really
love
is.
it.
They got real freaky for WandaVision, and like I said, even like conceptually, are the first 2 episodes black and white or just the first episode? I don't remember.
The first 2 are
But
and they dropped
yeah.
back to back, and then they went week by week.
Yeah, so even like, here's our first Marvel TV show. Everyone get ready. Get your popcorn. It's gonna be great. You're watching the first 2 episodes in black and white.
And not only
Sometimes,
that, like it visually and like aspect ratio
yeah,
looks like something from the 50s and in the second
yeah,
episode 60s, and yet they have color in like the last minute.
yeah. They're wholly they're not just going for a parody. They're like trying to accurately recreate what these shows look like in these time periods. I forgot about this earlier, but like even the tie into why this is the premise of the show. And then you get kind of the flashback of Wanda and her brother watching all of these shows as kids in their home country.
Yeah,
And that's why she has the nostalgia and the heart towards these shows.
and yeah, it's a retcon, but it's a good retcon.
Yeah. It's a really good one.
And it was an interesting balance that they had throughout the first 6 episodes. And yeah, episode 7 too, but it's like they showed a lot of the sitcom,
Hmm.
but then they showed the mystery. And it's like half of you wants to know the mystery, but half of you still wants to be in the sitcom world
Yeah.
actually playing out. And then like as the first episode to like episode 7, the cracks appear.
Hmm.
Like the second one, it felt like a little Twin Peaks. And I mean
Oh,
that in the
cool.
best
Yeah.
way possible. Of like all of a sudden, this guy in a beekeeper outfit comes up.
Right.
It changes, and then Wanda just drops her like I'm
To her, the
you know what I
demeanor.
mean, like her
Yeah.
face, and just goes no, and then
Yeah.
it rewinds.
Yeah. I forgot about that part. That's very like Twilight Zone, Twin Peaksy, like you said. It just helped build the mystery that was like, oh wait, what's happening?
And it's very funny, and then like the horror of like I love the episode 4. It's like, hey, this is all the events from like you want to talk about like Kate Bishop is number 1,
Hmm.
Monica is number 2,
Yeah.
my favorite MCU characters. I'm so
Mhm.
happy she's going to be a big part with not only the Marvels, probably Secret Invasion.
And Monica was the character earlier. I was talking about how twice in the TV shows we got a glimpse of what the blip looked like through a POV. And Monica was the first one where I think she's just like in hospital or
Yeah,
something.
her mom, who
Right.
was in the Captain Marvel, so she was probably resting. All of a sudden, like you don't know what's going on, and it's like what's happening, and it's like the
Yeah.
pieces forming together.
Yeah.
And then she wakes up, the bed's empty, the hospital is in chaos because of the
It's
blip.
yeah, it's full of people who weren't there for 5 years and like yeah. Um I liked that one. I like the Hawkeye one a lot more with Yelena, where she goes into the bathroom and then you kind of just see the
Exactly.
wall.
She would
Like,
just wash her face, and all of a sudden
yeah,
it changes, and like a very different house.
yeah.
Random. Like, how does the blip work? Of like, let's say I'm flying Southwest. It happens. Am I in the sky?
I didn't even
That's
think
always
about
bugged me.
that.
That's
What?
always bugged me.
Oh my god!
Just
You're just like you blip back and you're just like no.
or yeah, or am I in the plane?
Oh my
Did the plane
god.
get demolished?
Am I
What
like?
about cars?
Am I like? If I was like chewing a hamburger when the blip happened, would I come back 5 years later and be chewing on like 5-year-old hamburger, or is it still as fresh as it was the day I bit it?
Um, is it weird? Is hamburger inorganic matter? Do you know what I'm trying
Uh,
to say? It's not alive.
I mean,
Yeah, I know.
it's it's
Like
it's
we
not,
want
it's
to
not
go
sentient.
exactly. So, like animals are dead, but like, it's been killed.
Oh,
Basically, like you turn the dust, and then the hamburger would just drop.
okay. I thought you were assuming that like half of the hamburgers in the world would also go missing because that's 50% of like
Yeah,
the
I'm
living
like, well,
things.
that's what I'm trying to say. Like, food wouldn't go missing, but like birds were missing.
I'd be so sad if my food blipped and I didn't, and I just had no food in that moment.
Oreos were the casualty of the blip, and that's why Thanos is a monster. I'm
Uh,
sorry, family, that got blipped, but double stuffed Oreos.
they're so good. Anyway,
And
I don't know how we
like,
got here, but yeah.
oh, because of the blip,
Right.
and just like the absolute like chaos. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know how they did it. You made Darcy one of, I'm not gonna say like my favorite. Yeah, she was one of my favorite characters from the show.
Yeah, and as
You know
somebody
how to
who's
phrase it. Like, I love Kat Dennings.
hmm
I thought she was fine in the first Thor, and
hmm
then she was very insufferable. I don't think it was her fault
yeah,
in the second one, and then it's like redemption.
as somebody who has not seen the first two Thor movies, Kat Dennings came in, killed it, and I was like, should I go watch Thor just for her? And I was told not to. So
No.
I still have not. But no, Kat Dennings came in and just slayed me absolutely. She was the funniest character on the show for sure.
And I know I keep forgetting characters' names because there's a lot to talk about, but
Yeah.
just like, I mean, the other criticism is like the director,
Hmm.
who it was kind of just like a standard big bad,
Yeah.
but just like the mystery pulling out, and now like episode 5, we're in like half like outside of Westfield and then
Hmm.
inside of Westfield. It's
Yeah.
the 80s and early 90s.
I remember
And
when WandaVision was airing and everybody thought that they were going to introduce Fantastic Four through WandaVision. Everyone thought that they were going to meet Mr. Stretch Arms at the end of the
oh,
series.
basically like I got a guy.
Yeah,
And I remember that was a fan theory, and it's like, no.
no. Have they announced any of the casting for Fantastic Four for MCU? They haven't, right?
Only John Watts. And we'll talk about him when we talk
Okay.
about Spider-Man. We have not talked about it yet,
For some reason,
but
I
he
thought.
will be directing Fantastic Four.
Oh, okay. And he's the guy who does the Spider-Man movies, right? Or he did
All
the.
three. Mhm.
Yeah, I thought it was confirmed that John Krasinski was playing the main four guy,
He
but
was Mr. Fantastic. He's been heavily rumored slash fan cast
yeah,
along with Emily Blunt.
because he was supposed to be like he auditioned for Captain America way back in the day, and then he lost the audition to
Chris
Chris
Evans.
Evans. Yeah, which is
And Emily Blunt was supposed to be Black Widow, but she dropped
yeah,
out, so Scarlett Johansson.
yeah. Um, so let's go through the last because this is the last time we'll be talking about WandaVision proper. Any last kind of kudos you want to send it before we go to our top threes?
Episode 5 is so incredible. Like, you're all caught up in the sitcom, happiness, but something's wrong, and
Hmm.
that's like been the feeling for all
Yeah,
the episodes.
yeah.
But the end fight, like, Vision's like, no, something's going on. Tell me. Like, you just can't change things. And I'm all
Hmm.
paraphrasing this. And Wanda's like, can I?
Yeah.
end credits roll, and it's like, oh, and then their best scene, like Paul Bettany is pissed. They're about to fight, and he's like, "Stop lying to me." They both levitate, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, Evan Peters is at the door, and it's like,
Yeah.
"What the hell is happening?" Even
Yeah.
with a disappointing result, that it's incredible. And I feel like we have not talked enough about Agatha.
No, we definitely haven't. I get that. I mean, she'll have her own show that we'll talk about when we rank 2022 TV shows.
Or maybe, yeah, but like Agatha All Along
Yeah.
is probably the best song.
Yeah. It's
It's
one of the
so
best
good.
songs. Yeah.
That's Spotify Unwrapped, and just that character alone,
Hmm.
like, top three. Okay, Monica and Agatha are interchangeable.
Hmm.
Kate Bishop's number one, and that one and two are them.
Yeah.
Shit, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so good, and
Yeah.
like the positives, and it's now weird to say nostalgia because we're coming up on a year.
Yeah. They came out January 2021, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and having like when Game of Thrones ended, people were declaring like that's it. The week to week model is dead.
Hmm.
And of course, yeah, Chernobyl was a couple weeks later, and that was like, okay,
Maybe there's
people are
potential.
gonna, yeah, like that was like, okay, I'm gonna still keep my HBO membership.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think The Mandalorian, I'm not gonna save it, but it's like that, like, all right, that
Yeah.
argument and decree, it's dead. And WandaVision, I feel like had the best like back to back.
Hmm.
Everyone raving about it, talking about theories, just that like culture zone. You could not go on Twitter when you woke up because everyone would already be talking about it. All of
Hmm.
a sudden you'd be like, wait, Mr. Fantastic's trending. Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Why is and then you find out that's for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Um, there's one more thing about WandaVision I want to bring up before we move away from it. What was the
Mhm.
quote about love that Vision, like there's a scene, there's a flashback, I think, where Vision and Wanda are in a room and
It's
Wanda's really
episode 8. Yeah. And it's
there's
like,
there's a fucking I didn't mean to swear. There's a powerful line in there about love that floored me when Vision said it. I'm just looking for it now.
and
What
that
is
line about like it's
what
love
yeah.
and grief,
What
and
is
that was around the same time. Like,
mhm.
sorry to interrupt, but now just like bringing all memories back.
Of course, yeah.
That was such a perfect time because my uncle suddenly passed away.
Oh,
Just came
sorry,
out of
yeah.
shock. That's okay, but like that quote, like like something horrible happens, but then it's followed up by like something that's connected, and it
Mhm.
somehow all makes sense. That's
Yeah.
the thing that like it sucks, but just loving and treasuring that memory. So, do you have the exact quote?
The exact quote that I have here is what is grief if not love preserving?
Exactly.
And that's so strong, and like in that scene when he tells it to her and I think they have like an embrace and everything and they're just like they are each other's rock, and that one scene just really showed why Wanda is doing what she's doing, why the loss of Vision is such an impactful thing for her. I mean, this is a character who lost her brother to Ultron, and she didn't have this kind of reaction then. But, obviously, her and Vision went through so much since Age of Ultron. It really helped make sense of why she's torturing Westview the way she is, why she's having this impulsive panic attack almost.
Yeah, and just like her grief after Vision and she's at the home, and then she just boom transforms
Yeah.
Westfield into her own little niche reality.
Yeah.
The costume of Scarlet Witch is amazing.
It's really good.
Again, episode 5, her standoff when she goes out of the hex
Hmm.
and facing it off against the agents, like she's scary,
Yeah. No,
legit scary.
and that's why like Elizabeth Olsen, she can turn it on and she can go from your bubbly neighbor to the person you don't want to step on their lawn to, like in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
Um,
There's so much good about WandaVision that I love.
mhm.
Even with some of the disappointing stuff, the positives just
Yeah.
really outweigh any negative thing. So
After talking to you about it, like I'm less upset about the Ralph Boner thing. Like it's been a year and I've had
oh
this
yeah,
monkey
I'm
in my
so
shoulder.
upset. Oh yeah, but like the CGI fight, I'm like, okay, the
Hmm.
Ralph Boner. It's like I'm like,
Yeah, it was because it was so intentional. Anyway, I'm not going to go back into this. WandaVision was really good, and honestly, it might actually end up being over Loki for me. Those were kind of hard to place those two because I enjoyed them both so much.
Hmm.
But WandaVision was your number three, correct?
Yes.
So my number three is Hawkeye, not number one.
Oh, I thought it would have been number one. Damn it.
No, Hawkeye I really loved, and I was hoping this wasn't like a recency bias because it just finished like 2 weeks ago. But I genuinely, when looking at my list, feel great about having it in the third spot.
No spoilers. We'll definitely talk about recent bias. But yeah, Hawkeye. It's so incredible. Actually, one last thing about WandaVision.
Yes, yeah.
As I mentioned, like if you loved Hawkeye the show, read this comic.
Mm.
WandaVision, not base, but Vision had his own miniseries just called Vision, written
Yeah.
by Tom King. It's a modern masterpiece.
Okay, cool. What's
And
it called
it's
one more time?
just Vision by
Okay.
Tom King. And it's Vision creates his own family. And it's
Okay.
very like suburban life, but then it takes so many dark turns.
And it's just Vision, no Wanda.
Wanda's in it like in the
Okay.
middle of it,
Okay.
but they took a lot of the tone of Vision
Mm-hmm.
to WandaVision.
Interesting. I'll check it out.
That was
I'm
the
gonna
thing. I was like, what did I say? That.
I'm gonna have you DM me just a list of all these like graphic novels to check out.
You got it.
There's not much more to say about Hawkeye. I think that what we've already said. I think it gets its number three spot for me because there's so much I enjoyed and so little I didn't enjoy. Like when you and I were nitpicking Hawkeye, there's not much there. I guess one of the biggest things would be, and once again, spoilers up for the whole thing. There's no way that they killed Wilson Fisk at the end of the show, right?
I know they disappointed us with Ralph Boner, but they can't go that low.
Like
Can
that.
they? No.
That'd be worse. And as somebody who
That'd
didn't
be
watch
far worst.
the Daredevil TV show, I would be upset for you. I'd be so pissed if they brought this character back just to kill him an episode later.
I mean, they didn't show the him getting like killed, not like slumped over.
Yeah.
They like not cut to, but it was just like they, pan up and you just heard the gunshots. We saw him like withstand like explosions and arrows and all this stuff. So
I've learned from Game of Thrones and Walking Dead and every other piece of entertainment that has ever existed, if you don't see them die, they're probably not dead.
you know where I learned that from? The MCU.
The
They love
MCU.
to bring back supposedly dead people.
And like I like to think that they didn't do it, but also before the camera pans, what we assume happened is that Echo shot him in the face, which I don't think the MCU would actually show anyway. Like
Exactly.
she has a gun pointed like point blank at his face, and if she pulled that trigger, like I don't know, but you might know more about this than I do. Is there a version of Fisk in the comics that's blind?
Yeah, it's actually like very similar into like they show like the pano, like and then boom, they don't actually show like him getting shot, and then it cuts to like associate talking to Wilson Fisk. He's in his chair and bandages are covering his eyes.
Yeah.
I forget how he gets his sight because everything is retcon in comics.
But wouldn't it be cool if like he became Daredevil's equivalent? Like he's the blind antagonist to Daredevil's.
Blind protagonist.
Maybe it doesn't sound good when I say it that way, but to have the scales balance out a bit more, where like Wilson Fisk was like this incredibly powerful guy who would mostly lose against Daredevil when he fought him, I assume. But this does kind of like even the board for those two characters if they ever go head to head again. Like I said, I don't think he's dead. Maybe he's blind or deaf or something. I don't know.
Probably blind, and then they'll like change it up because
Yeah.
in this fantastical MCU, not this gritty Netflix show.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They probably will.
What they'll do is
And,
instead of loss of sight or hearing, he'll like lose his sense of smell, and that'll be his like tragic character arc for the next season. It's like I can't smell anything.
Well,
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
it's if you or your loved ones have no sense of smell, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I don't even
Also-
have anything clever.
Yeah. But like I said, like, is there anything else about Hawkeye we want to kind of like pump up? I feel like we did it when you brought it up earlier, but
Um,
can we talk about actually Clint's wife? Can we talk about that for a bit?
yes.
I knew what was happening because other people told me what was happening, but then I feel like the show didn't explain it very well at the end when his wife, Linda Cardellini, is at home the entire series on the other end of a phone, just kind of calling him, seeing what's going on. But there's a watch that's been missing. And they seem very adamant about getting this watch back. Can you fill me in and some of the listeners about what that watch meant?
So it's revealed that she was a part of Shield, and they don't explain it, but you can make your own headcanon of how like they wanted to get out of the business, or he's still in the business. They want to get away, start a new life, but he's still involved. So that's why they're super protective of, their home.
Yeah.
And that's why throughout the show, like she knows about Ronan, and it's like, oh, this average, citizen is okay with this. Like,
Yeah.
she's probably been around, and the theory that's going around, I don't know if actually confirms that she is the character Mockingbird.
See, I thought when she got the watch at the end of the series, she flipped it over. I thought it showed like, is that the Shield logo or is that
It's
her
a Shield
personal?
logo.
Oh, I thought that was her personal logo. Okay, never mind. So she was with Shield for sure.
Yes, I will have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it was Shield.
Okay, I think it's like an eagle, which makes more sense to me than if she's a
it's like
mockingjay. Yeah.
But even her addition, like just being like, whoa, 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 she actually knows like what's going
Yeah.
on and like helping him on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I love that dynamic. I like the idea of him being out in the field while she's kind of his Chloe. If you're watching 24, if you've watched 24.
dun dun.
But yeah, no, not much for Hawkeye for me. I really loved it, and I did not think I would going into it. I think that's the thing I said earlier. It surprised me the most out of almost anything that came out last year from Marvel. I had the lowest expectations and walked away with like the third biggest smile, obviously.
I think I don't know how to rank it. Okay, I know how to rank it, but like the expectations for like Wanda Vision, Spider-Man, and Hawkeye were so high,
Mm-hmm.
and then all three of them exceeded so well.
Yeah.
And if this encouraged people to read that Hawkeye, My Life is a Weapon, and then the other issues after it,
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
And
That's always
again,
good.
Rogers the Musical.
Yeah. Rogers the
They
Musical.
released it on Spotify like after the first two episodes.
I didn't know it was on there. I'll have to download
It's
that.
Save the City.
Save the City. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna put it on my workout playlist for tomorrow.
After this, I'm gonna work out and I'm gonna play it. I love and Hawkeye is cool, like a really nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He was there.
But yeah, but he just doesn't wish that New York was the battle.
Oh my god.
It's so good, and I
Yeah.
think I don't know if it's the directors. Like they worked on the Hairspray. I believe it was the movie, if
Okay.
not the Broadway like
Musical?
revival.
Yeah.
So having them like bring those roots back, awesome.
I love that we're at a point in the MCU where it has such a long enough history that it's able to look back at itself and make fun of itself.
Exactly.
Like it's crazy to me that they can make fun of the Avengers first movie now. They can make fun of Iron Man 2 if they want to because they have the pedigree and they've earned the reputation. It's all canon in their universe, so it makes sense for them to reference this stuff. I mean, I love that this is where we are, where they can talk about the past movies openly.
It's hey, speaking of Ant-Man, it's hey, look at us. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought, right?
Not me.
So we are down to our top two. I have a good feeling what your number one. I know what your number 1 and 2 are. I know what they are.
What? You know my number one? It's like I talked about it a lot when I appeared on this podcast.
I know.
What?
Let's start with your number 2 though. Let's get this out of the way. What is your number 2?
Loki.
Loki? Yeah. Yeah. So why was Loki number 2 for you?
I was so I thought, okay, this show's gonna be good,
Mm-hmm.
but like, okay, so okay, he's in the TVA and he's gonna solve mysteries. No, and it just took all these twists and turns, but like the right twists and turns,
Yeah.
and just like each reveal, the setting of the TVA, the music, incredible. I think even if it didn't get nominated for an Emmy, it should have.
Yeah, I don't know if it did.
It's just so incredible. Owen Wilson's great. The whole
Mm-hmm.
cast is good. Tara Strong as Miss Minutes.
So good.
It's a fun addition, but
Yeah.
then looking back, it's also creepy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very creepy.
And just like the variant of Kane,
Mm-hmm.
he did such a good job. And it's
Yeah.
like, I love how this is the first time we're seeing even if it's not exactly what will become,
Mm-hmm.
this is like setting it up.
Yeah. When we talked about Loki earlier, I don't think we gave Jonathan Majors enough props. Like, he's only in that last episode, but he destroys. He steals the show in that last episode for me.
And Jonathan Majors always steals the show, even
Yeah.
like in that short of Love
Lovecraft
County.
Country. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really good. Yeah.
But I'm so happy he's going to be a big
Yeah.
part. He's going to be definitely the villain. I don't know about main villain. It'd be Ant-Man 3.
Yeah.
Quantumanium.
That's what I've heard too. I hope so.
That's when they like, oh, he's cast in this movie. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah. But I'm like, hey, just all of it is so good.
Yeah. I think Loki is the most high concept thing they had this year. And when it comes to dealing with time and space, all that stuff can be really heady for an audience sometimes. But I think Loki was able to both narratively describe what was happening as well as visually show what was happening in an incredibly digestible way.
And my biggest theory before like going into the show, you have Loki since Thor to Infinity War. And yeah, technically Endgame, but that's a little different.
Yeah.
Just like that character progression. And it's like, okay, with Endgame, of course, he uses the
Tesseract.
yes, to go back. And then that's the start of Loki. And it's like, so we lost all of that character progress.
Yeah,
We're back to square one.
There's no Loki in Ragnarok?
Exactly. Well, it's a different one, but...
Oh, different one, right.
Or maybe it is timey-wimey stuff.
Variants, yeah.
Exactly. It's like, I'm accepting of Groot and Rocket Raccoon. I'm fine with this.
Yeah,
just not Blip stuff.
Yeah, Blip stuff's weird. Yeah, Blip lore. Yeah.
But just the progression that he had and the arc that he went through, this one, that felt similar in like a little bit of redemption, but still keeping mischievous and just like somehow even being better.
Yeah. No. And like, because he enters the first episode as post First Avengers Loki.
Exactly. I'm gonna conquer, the world is mine, and it's like,
I think one of the most powerful moments of the show is when Owen Wilson shows him, no, here's how you fail.
Yeah, and it's like
you get killed by Thanos. Yeah,
exactly. And that, and I love in the first episode, like he sees the Infinity Stones and he's like, "Oh my god!" And they're just like paperweights because nothing.
I love that so much. Yeah,
and it's like, oh, I can use this place.
Yeah,
but just like how he's progressing, and it's going to sound weird. Okay, not that weird. Tom Hiddleston in that outfit.
Yeah, you mean like the orange jumpsuit or
that? Just a simple white shirt, black tie.
Oh yeah. Business. Damn. We call that business Loki.
Yeah, not President Loki.
No, that's a different character in the show.
But everything just hit.
For me, like
such a big success. They shift their model to no, it's not going to be on Fridays. It's going to be on Wednesday.
Yeah,
think about that.
Yeah, it's the characters, it's the visuals, and it's the story. It is the story for me. I think Loki maybe had some of the weaker action scenes of the shows I liked more, especially like Hawkeye and Falcon Winter Soldier. I think had better action scenes. But overall, also we didn't even talk about this. If you met a different gendered version of yourself from a different universe, do you think you'd fall in love with that person?
Considering how I look, I don't think the female me is going to look so much better.
Well. Did we find out her name? Is it Sylvie?
I do. We're just like, it was so hard to prepare this list.
Yeah, I went through some stuff.
I should have probably just write down the list, but I didn't have paper.
But she doesn't look like Tom Hiddleston. Doesn't mean that the female variant of you is going to look just like you.
I hope so for her sake.
Yeah.
Like, if we were on Too Hot to Handle, who knows?
Oh my god! And you show up as a contestant, and then the person they bring is the female variant. Oh my god! Now that's TV. That's good TV.
MCU Too Hot to Handle.
Oh
it's all the Loki variants.
Hey, I heard that they're working on new shows for 2023. That could be one of them.
Except, mine is the kid, but the Gator stays.
The Gator stays. Gator is the judge. Perfect. I think that's pretty much it for Loki. I do want to see what happens with the caveat for a lot of these. What happens next? I want to know they set something up, and I want the next chapter.
That's fair. I mean, when I look back, then it'll just be like this season of Loki, because there is season 2. They announced it straight after.
Yep.
Like, Loki will return in season 2.
Yep. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm looking forward to it. I'll have to rewatch season 1 before just like there's a lot that happened in season 1 that I want to make sure I'm caught up on beforehand. The Owen Wilson arc, the Miss Minutes arc, everything about what's going on. But that's your number 2. I'm going to say my number 2, and then I'm also going to say my number 1, because by default, your number 1 has to be Spider-Man.
Come on.
I just
You
just
want
by
some recent bias with
just using
Hawkeye?
basic math.
Oh God.
Oh, come on. So my number 2 is Spider-Man. My number 1 is Eternals.
Whoa.
So we can talk about Spider-Man
I
now
love it.
if you want, or I can talk about
Got your hand in
Eternals.
Turtles.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's talk about
We can
it's
do
your
Eternals
show.
now and then Spider-Man. We'll do
Because I'm actually more fascinated because of course I want to talk about Spider-Man.
yeah.
I want to hear why Eternals is your
Yeah.
number 1, and it's an amazing movie. So
We-
do this so I
yeah.
grab water. I can still hear it.
Yeah. So we're gonna do Eternals first, and that way then we'll go all the way into Spider-Man conversation. But Eternals is my number 1 Marvel thing of last year because it just surprised me in so many ways. And we talked about it earlier, just having Chloe Zhao behind the camera, and to be upfront, I did not like Nomadland. I'm not a huge Nomadland fan. I think it was like in my bottom 10 movies of last year. So I didn't have a lot of expectations going into this movie with this acclaimed director who had just won an Oscar. But like we were saying, Mark, like having these natural environments and these somehow godlike characters that feel incredibly human. And I really love the cast. I love the characters. I walked out of Eternals in the first viewing. Sorry, I went into it being like, I'll remember like 2 of these guys' names. I left the theater being like, oh my god, Kingo and Thena and like Sprite, Makari, all of them. Like I genuinely fell in love with every single character. None of them felt the same. They were all unique. I loved their relationships with each other, specifically Thena and Gilgamesh. And then my favorite part of Eternals is a really small moment where Kingo, the Kumail Nanjiani character, he's in entertainment, he's in Bollywood. And Sprite, 5,000 years ago, used to do like magic tricks for shows at bars they used to go to. And after a moment of confrontation, Kingo tells Sprite, I'm in this business because of you. Like, you inspired me so much to want, like, it's a small moment, you blink it, you miss it, but it was the interactions, the characters, the kind of like intergalactic plot. Sure, that's interesting. I like getting to know more about Celestials. Is that what they were called?
Yes.
Yeah, I like getting to know more about them. Watching, there's a scene where it tells you what's going to happen. It's like, oh, they'll put a seed into a planet, and then after 5,000 years, it'll burst out of the planet. There's a shot in Eternals where it shows what it would look like if that happened.
Yes.
That genuinely scared me. It looked so realistic that how fragile our planet is and how like we could be destroyed in 2 seconds by either a celestial in the core or like a meteor from Don't Look Up. Like, it's really making me feel small in a way. But I can go on and on and on. I loved Eternals.
I'm so happy to hear that. Even though it's my number 6, it's so
Yeah.
good.
It's
And
so
just
good.
The Asamo it's amazing.
Mhm.
And it was a curious thing. It's like, whoa. You guys have been a part of this Earth since
Mhm.
basically the beginning.
Yep.
You didn't stop Thanos. You didn't stop this. And I'm like, but it's like, oh, we couldn't interfere. It's like, really?
Mhm.
But they showed exactly why.
Yeah.
And just that. And I'm like, I get it. I'm all
Because there's a character named Druig, and his power is like mind control and stuff like that. And early on in the movie, they're watching a civil war happen, and they're watching humans just killing humans, and they don't like it. They're like, we need to stop this. But it's their leader Ajak who is like, we are not to interfere with any human quarrel. And seeing the sadness of like them watching not even their same breed just massacre each other, and the sympathy they have and the empathy they have, it really goes a long way, because these are essentially robots we're talking about. Eternals are essentially just soulless things.
They're basically Vision in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
These synthetic robots, androids, whatever you want to call them,
Hmm.
and more importantly, I think Vision just have some like godlike power. These
Yeah.
are legit gods,
Yeah.
but they feel so real. Brian Taylor, yeah, he, like what the
Brian
this,
Tyrese Henry.
yes, like
Hmm.
his character when like why he had
Fastos.
why he abandoned humanity, and it just shows him and Ajax. It's the aftermath
Yeah.
of Hiroshima. I
Yeah.
would never expect that in an MCU movie.
No.
And just like hits, and it's like his disappointment and sorrow and grief and just
Yeah.
like anger and sadness all at once. And like, I'm not gonna say redemption, but just like
It
why he
resonated.
believes in
Yeah.
like his faith for humanity with his I don't know if they were married, but I'm just gonna say husband
Yeah.
and their son,
Yeah.
first same sex like official character.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, one of the Rooster brothers yelled one line.
Yeah.
Eh.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hope this isn't like a cheap gimmick.
Hmm.
Like, hey, we're diverse, and it's like, kind of. But when
Yeah.
it was so good, and just like the powers, Icarus' betrayal of like,
Yeah.
I'm dedicated to the mission, and like, of course, Icarus intentionally flew too close to the sun.
Yeah. That
I
was
love that.
visually, that was a little
I
overhanded maybe, but
I don't care. I
but
would have done the same thing.
don't they reference in the movie Eternals that the story of Icarus getting close to the sun is based off this Icarus? Like that story's based off him, isn't it?
Yeah, like Sprite and like her like I think Sprite told her,
Oh, probably, yeah.
and like the connection like between them, and even like the third act,
Hmm.
like you want to like, now I'm thinking about it, like 2021 in the MCU was a great time for deaf characters, and
Yeah.
I'm horrible with names, but the deaf character
Makari.
Nakari, she was incredible.
Yeah.
I feel like the only like I don't know if I can call it criticism, but I'm like, we couldn't see more of her.
Yeah. She was not given enough. Even like someone like Fastos, I feel like could have been given more screen time, but like
Mhm.
hopefully we'll see more of them in the future. And while we're talking about Eternals, and like it's my favorite because of all this familial stuff, and it feels down to earth. It's also very funny. Like it
It's
is.
so good. Like they're
You got Kumail in
uh,
there just like killing jokes. You got Gilgamesh wearing a giant baby outfit at one point.
because of Sprite.
Cause Sprite, yeah, like it's a good movie. I loved it so much. And when I went to Metacritic the day of, and I was like, "What's it reviewing at? Low 80s, high 90s? Where are we at? Oh God, we're at 50."
And it's like, why?
I
And
don't
it's
know.
always a dangerous thing when you see something too low or too high in
Hmm.
your own opinion. You're going to judge the movie based on that. So let's just say Thor: The Dark World had like an 89
Hmm.
on Rotten Tomatoes. It doesn't. It's like 60 something.
Yeah.
Should be lower. But like, I would judge it even more harshly because it's so high.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm judging Internals in that light of like, it's so good. How come people can't see it? And I
Hmm.
get the issues the of people understanding the runtime and all that. A little too bloated. I don't
Hmm.
have those issues, but I
Yeah.
understand that. However, it's a hard dilemma. If you cut 20 minutes out of the movie, you get a shorter runtime and fix one issue. But
Hmm.
guess what? That connection, which it would be those cut scenes,
Yeah.
they're lost.
Like those 20 minutes, that could be the scene that I was talking about with Kingo and Sprite, where he says, "You inspired me to be an entertainer." Like those are powerful moments. That's 40 seconds. If you're looking to cut 20 minutes, I don't even know what you're cutting at that point. It'd be crazy
It's
to
just
me.
all around you. There's so much things you can cut. But
Back to its like critical
yeah,
reception, my hypothesis, and I could be wrong, but my hypothesis is that critics reviewed this movie as the newest Chloe Zhao film and not as the newest Marvel movie. Because remember, like she released Nomadland earlier last year in March, and it was a critical darling. It won Best Picture at the Oscars.
and she won Best Director
She,
in
yeah.
that same year, like beginning of 2021. That
Hmm.
happened. Uh,
So I think when people see
and
that she's doing a Marvel movie, their expectations might go up higher than what they probably should have. Like, that's my theory. That's my thesis. I don't know if that's true. Maybe they thought it was a bad Marvel movie. Could be, but
I think it's definitely both. I think
yeah.
some critics are, because of the ridiculous, like Martin Scorsese versus Marvel,
Mm,
A24 versus Marvel.
yeah.
Stop.
Stop. Stop
First
it.
of all, stop asking that question. Stop. Two, send me all the fan art between A24 versus
Hmm.
Marvel. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, hey, two things can exist. Just
Yeah.
leave it out of it. And like when you go into a movie, I understand like comparing to other Marvel movies,
Hmm.
but comparing it to other projects, and maybe
Like
that's a
other
little more
indie films.
dicey.
Yeah. Definitely.
Exactly. I can understand like if this is like tangent on tangent. We even haven't gotten to Spider-Man. Oh my god.
I know. We'll get there.
So let's just say like M. Night Shyamalan.
Sure.
You're comparing it to his other movies because he's very hit and miss.
Yeah.
But like Chloe Zhao, you're comparing her because she's this critical darling.
Hmm.
I don't think you should do that. Just compare it on the movie itself.
Yeah.
And of course, people have issues that I mentioned, and that's a valid point. I don't see it as an issue,
Hmm.
but
But like, Nomadland is a movie that was written, directed, produced, not starring, but like that was her baby. When you get a Marvel job, you don't have as much creative freedom as you do on a Nomadland or on your indie movie you made 2 years ago that made you famous, like a John Watts or something. You really have to kind of throw away some of that freedom to get the Marvel job, I think.
and I want people to have that freedom. I kind of understand like that's a huge investment.
Yeah. Like
It's
if they
huge, but hey, Kevin Feige and crew said go for it.
yeah, I
And
mean,
that's why I'm kind of scared that like they see it as like oh, we can't do that again.
yeah. Yeah, too
And granted,
risky.
they've done it before. Like Guardians feels like a James Gunn movie.
Hmm.
Ragnarok feels like a Taika Waititi movie.
Yeah. It's like if they were to try and do Deadpool 3, but they were going to get Wes Anderson
No,
to direct it, I don't
I'm
think
in.
it's going to
I'm
it's
in.
not, it's going to be like a stage play version of Deadpool with lots of quick cuts and Jason Schwartzman and Owen Wilson and Bill Murray.
Then
If
but it could be like marionettes and like
yeah.
Deadpool could be controlling it.
Yeah, I think even like hypothetically if they got Tarantino to do a Marvel movie, it's not going to look like a Tarantino. I don't think that's how, you know, the the brownie is made. I don't know what the saying is.
Sausage is made.
That's exactly what I was looking for. I couldn't think of the
I
word
am making
sausage.
brownies today, so thank you for
Oh,
reminding me. I want
that's good.
brownies.
Like you were saying though, we haven't even got to Spider-Man. I think I've given my case about why Eternals is my favorite. I totally respect it on anywhere on anyone's list. I just could that night I saw it in theaters. I went home, laid in bed, couldn't sleep. I just kept thinking about the movie till like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, I think. So had a huge
Same
impact on
thing,
me.
but it was like, how come people didn't like this?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
like,
did.
or more of like, how did it get this real? Like, this is think about it. Out of all the movies, this is the only rotten MCU.
That's
I
crazy.
don't get
That's
it.
crazy. I don't understand it.
It's crazy on that level. It's crazy that this is the first one since 2008. Think about
Yeah.
all the movies that came before, and
Yeah.
some of it should have had.
Yeah.
But
But yeah. Yeah,
I
no,
love
I
your number one. I
thank you so
really thought it was
much.
gonna be Hawkeye. I thought I saw a tweet that said it was your favorite thing from this year. I'm like,
Oh, I think it's my favorite
or
TV show. It's my favorite Marvel TV show, but my number one and two are the movies. So,
gotcha. Or I
yeah.
was like, maybe I saw like someone else's tweet, but I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I know. But I love the Eternals. Not only is it a surprise pick, but it's a fantastic movie. And when this podcast comes out, it's coming out on Disney Plus January 12th, I
Yeah,
believe is the
that
date.
that's the day it should drop. Yeah.
And watching standard, watching the IMAX, do yourself a favor.
Oh yeah.
So, wow, that actually ties in.
There we go.
And we're just gonna talk about my number one is
Now,
Spider-Man.
like what you've all been waiting for pretty much. Mark's number 1, my number 2. We got Spider-Man. Uh
Now it's still in theaters by the time this podcast comes out. Maybe
mhm.
some people haven't seen it, even though people from the movie have been talking about it, spoiling it all over the
Yeah.
timeline. your last chance. Okay?
Get out. Go.
Get out.
Get out of here.
Get out. All right.
Go see your
3,
grandparents.
2, 1.
Go.
Toby, Andrew, boom.
Uh,
Matt Murdock. Catch us
Aunt May died.
Yes.
Happy is not happy.
Bad. Wow, that's the character arc. Happy's now sad. Sad Hogan.
Listen, if you go back to Iron Man 1, you can track that. You can track that arc. It's deep. It goes places.
I actually do love Jon Favreau as there's so much to like. The final suit at the end. Oh, where do we begin?
So
I know it's
like
my number one, but
it's your number one. So I'm gonna let you take the wheel and drive on this one. What blew you away from this movie?
You want to talk about high expectations for this movie?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you know how I mentioned before how like they burned us with the multiverse?
Yeah.
I was so scared about the multiverse aspect of this. I'm like, is it going to be like Doc Ock? Is that going to be his actual name?
Yeah. I was worried too that maybe we weren't going to get the characters we thought we were. We were going to get variations. Like, I was worried going into it we weren't going to get Sam Raimi, Willem Dafoe Green Goblin. I thought we were going to get modern MCU Willem Dafoe Green Goblin. Kind of the same way that like you're saying with Wilson Fisk, he's not the same character as he was in the Netflix show, because the Netflix show is a lot darker and grittier and does things that the standard MCU will not do.
I will say they are very similar.
Yeah,
just like
they're similar,
and we don't know like, is this exactly the Netflix Daredevil? Because they don't mention like plot points because they're in brief appearances.
Yeah. So like my fear going into it was that we were going to go in and kind of get what we want, but then also kind of get like retconned Sam Raimi versions of these characters.
And keep in mind, you have two separate franchises, both Spider-Man, but this is Raimi, this is Mark Webb.
Yep.
If you do something bad in this movie, that affects those movies.
It does. And I'm glad to say, I think that this newest Spider-Man movie elevated the legacy of both the Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield films. Maybe not so much the Tobey Maguire, but I left No Way Home wanting to watch Amazing Spider-Man, which I've never done and I've never wanted to do.
Andrew Garfield, live action wise, is my Spider-Man. Even the movies are not perfect. He is.
Would you say it's fair to say that he stole the show in No Way Home? Like, everything he did and said, his character, his quirky Peter Parker, I loved so much.
I'm going to say yes, but Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe, yeah.
And we of course we knew he was an amazing villain. Like, people, I'm not going to say diss Andrew Garfield, but people hold Toby in high esteem, as they should.
Yep.
Tom Holland, we've seen so many times, he's amazing. And Andrew Garfield is like, I don't want to say the black sheep, Black Spider.
I mean, they call him Spider-Man 3 for a reason. Like, they know he's Spider-Man 3 in that team.
Which I was even mad in theater. I'm like, no.
But
guess what? Welcome to the bandwagon of wanting another Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie.
Especially if he's the Spider-Man that will fight Venom, like Tom Hardy's Venom eventually. Because bye, Venom. Hope you had fun in the MCU for 5 minutes. Sure was fun having you here. So
by the way, if Venom, Let There Be Carnage counted on this list, guess what's number 10?
Yeah, it's number 10 for me for sure. It was almost worse than Space Jam 2.
Don't diss LeBron James like that. Don't
like,
diss Bugs.
I mean, I'll diss Warner Brothers as a entity.
That's fair enough.
There we go.
Come for the Spider-Man talk, but it's actually Space Jam 2.
Before we move away from Garfield, like I just said, I had never seen the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but I always knew how they ended with Gwen Stacy not being saved in time. That moment in No Way Home, when MJ starts falling, Tom Holland goes to save her, but then Green Goblin scoops him out of the way, and Garfield does the dive, and then he catches her, and he says, "Are you okay?" And she says, "Are you okay?" That, to me, was the most powerful moment of the movie. And I've never seen this guy as Spider-Man before. How is this possible?
he's so good. Not only as Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield in general. Like he's probably going to be nominated for Best Actor for Tick Tick Boom, which
Yeah, I hope so.
is amazing. I haven't really been keeping track of like the Best Actor race. Like
Hmm.
I know like Kristen Stewart is an obvious lock to win Best Actress for
For Power of Dog.
yes, no,
Yeah.
Breaking Dawn. No, I'm just
Wait, oh,
kidding.
Kirsten Stewart.
Diane.
You said Kirsten Stewart. I thought you meant Kirsten Dunst for some reason.
Oh, I thought you were mentioning like was
No,
you
that was
saying Breaking
no.
Dawn?
Kirsten Dunst was in Power of the Dog.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get too far
Uh,
off track.
yeah. Come for the Oscar talks.
Yeah, seriously.
But just like him, he's such a great actor.
Mm.
And he resonates so much because he's such a huge fan of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I just saw an interview this morning, I think it was Entertainment Weekly, of how they pitched it to him.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad for him because Toby's not really in the spotlight. He's been keeping out like
Yeah.
I think maybe a movie after Great Gatsby.
I think 2013 was his last IMDb role.
Like he was in like The Boss Baby, but Theo.
Yeah.
Like live action. This is like he's back. So he's been,
Yeah.
he hasn't been in the circuit. He's been like, oh, he gonna be No Way Home. Like I felt so bad for Andrew Garfield. Like just leave the man alone.
Seriously. But I'm so glad he was able to come back and like, because obviously the Mark Webb movies have a not so great reputation. So for him to kind of come in and just like instantly brush all of that under the rug within 5 seconds of talking, once Mary Jane starts throwing bread at him and she's like, "Prove that you're Peter Parker," and he's like, "Why? I can do this. I'm hanging on the ceiling. Stop throwing bread at me." Like he won me over so fast, and I really hope we see him as Spider-Man again. But just in general, like what are some like the when you think about the Spider-Man No Way Home, the thing that makes it your number one? Is it the nostalgia? Is it the fan service? Is it the story, the drama?
All of it.
All of it.
And
Well,
you mentioned that like when Stacey died, I was also scared before the movie because Sony loves to spoil. And when Amazing Spider-Man 2 was so infamous because they showed not exactly, but it's like, no, you can obviously see what just
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
And I really thought they were going to show Andrew and Toby, but to their credit, and maybe it was like Disney's like, don't you dare.
yep,
I'm going to give Sony credit. Like, hey, you did it.
yep.
You didn't spoil it. Good on you.
It obviously worked out. It's their highest box office grossing movie of all time.
It's I know it's like honestly it's
Number 2 or 3 right now on the overall box office rankings, I think.
exactly it's definitely Sony's number one. I was gonna say something about like the movie industry, but like thinking about it, ooh, it's too much.
Well,
but
the fact that it got the 3rd spot on the overall box office rankings during a pandemic. Like a lot of people I know aren't going to theaters, but man, people showed up for Spider-Man.
I want to compare it to when Force Awakens came
Okay.
out,
Yeah.
as in terms of the movie industry, because like a couple other movies came out around that, like the Jumanji movie with The Rock, the first one of that,
Yep.
and Force Awakens, huge box office hit, but theaters were so full that people went to like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Like the movies around that movie,
Yeah.
like Force Awakens, did so good.
Yep.
That's
'Cause
why,
they're
like, like whoever produces Jumanji, like they're like, hey, do you want it next to Star Wars?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, that's when we only want it.
Yeah.
They released it during Rise of Skywalker, and guess what?
Oh wow.
Box office hit.
Yeah.
But yet again, we're not seeing it in this one, like because it's Spider-Man or we go home.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
But going back to like why I love this movie so much, this in the Tom Holland, like I'm not gonna be like one of those people like he's Iron Man Jr.
Mm-hmm.
because it's very not comic Spider-Man. This is the MCU Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be reference heavy and Tony Stark, who's the figure of the MCU. I get that. But this felt like comic Spider-Man. Or maybe I
Yeah.
should say this is the transition.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you feel happy about yourself, people. He's broke. Everyone doesn't know him. His Aunt May died. But hey,
Yeah.
he doesn't have a Stark suit, you bastards.
I feel like whatever you want to call it, the home trilogy between Homecoming, No Way Home, and Far From Home. I didn't realize until the end of No Way Home that this trilogy was just an origin story for Peter Parker.
Exactly.
I thought from by Far From Home he was like fully 100% Spider-Man.
Because
No,
he's swinging through the city, and it's like, no, this
he hasn't learned anything yet.
Oh, and just think about, like, that's comic Spider-Man.
Yeah,
That's the Parker look.
yeah,
Like,
and that's crazy to
now,
me.
Like, the Aunt May, like, when she said, with great power comes great responsibility, and I'm like, oh no, she's dead. Ugh.
Yeah.
But I never felt like they were wasting Marissa Tomei, but I'm like, you got Marissa Tomei.
You got to use her
more, and
Yeah.
they used her a lot.
Yeah, she was great.
Jamie Foxx was a pleasant surprise. Of course he's a great actor, but
He's so
Amazing
funny.
Spider-Man 2, and it wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
I'll say this about the Amazing Spider-Man, like 2 movies. You know who's the real villain? Sony.
Mark Webb. Okay.
Mark Webb was good. Love 500 Days of Summer.
Me too. I love that movie.
But it's like, unfortunately, when Avengers came out, all studios is like, oh, we can do a cinematic universe.
Easy.
I love DC. They couldn't do. They put too much into it.
Yeah.
You remember Dark Universe?
Yeah, the Mummy, and there's a second one in that universe too, right? A Frankenstein or something? No. Okay.
They were gonna make them. They even had a cast photo. They're like, this is a thing, and it wasn't a thing.
No.
And all this, and Sony tried to make a Spideyverse, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But it wasn't his fault, but it was such a misfire in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but he was so good in this one.
Yep. Yeah, no, I really just love like the fact that we've watched Tom Holland for maybe across
Since
like
2016.
Since 2016, across 6 movies between the Avengers and Civil War and stuff, like 7 movies maybe we've seen him in.
We have the Civil War, 2 Infinity War, Endgame,
and the trilogy. So we've seen him a lot. And the fact that by the end of No Way Home, he's pretty much where Tobey Maguire is at the end of the first Spider-Man in terms of like maturity and his like consciousness of his responsibility.
It's so good.
It's
Doctor
so well
Strange.
It's a huge.
Was so good.
It was so good. I got a couple questions, kind of about Doctor Strange. First, what do you think about Magic Ned? And do you think that's leading to some Hobgoblin nonsense or no?
I just want to check this. I don't think it's Magic Ned. So originally, the Doctor Strange movie, probably before the pandemic, was supposed to come before Spider-Man.
Right.
So I don't really want to butcher his character name or even guess.
No, I thought it was interesting. There's a whole scene in the movie where Ned goes to Peter and is like, hey man, I'm never going to betray you. Wink, wink.
Well, now I got it on the second time.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't pronounce her name, last name. American Chavez. C-H-A-V. So it's
Chavez?
Yes, Chavez. So concept art came out that she was the one who, either on purpose or accidentally, brought Toby and Andrew. She was supposed to be in the movie, but of course, things came around. They cut that, so they had the plot of Ned. So I understand that.
Okay, interesting. Back to Strange. I just love that fight scene in the what do they call it? The realm?
The Mirror World.
Mirror World. That was so cool.
Dimension.
And then when Peter's like, wait a minute, I know math. I can do this.
And I'm like, all right, using Peter's, intelligence.
Yeah, and it seems like each Peter has their own like specialty. Like Tom Holland is like math. Andrew Lincoln was more of like the I think science. Oh, not Andrew. I do this all the time. Andrew Garfield. Imagine if Andrew Lincoln played Spider-Man from The Walking Dead. I don't know. Rick Grimes.
Ned.
Oh God. What was I just going? That just threw me off so much. Andrew Garfield.
and Tobey Maguire. Like,
I don't. Oh yeah, they all have their own thing, their own like specialty. Where like Tom Holland seems like he's good at math. One of them seems like they're good at like string theory concepts. The other one's just like science in general. Yeah, I always get Andrew Garfield and Andrew Lincoln mixed up. I do not know how to fix it. It will never go away.
so let's just say we remove Andrew Garfield and Toby from the movie, and
Yeah.
that includes the hype before that because they were in the movie. Of course, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
This movie's still great.
Yeah.
Alfred Molina, who's already amazing in Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
just like he crushes it. But William Dafoe, oh
It's so
my
good.
gosh, I love. The complaint was the Goblin mask that he had because people said like, okay, it looks stupid, but he's more scarier without it on.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
yeah, he's a lot scarier. And like the dual personality and just the laugh.
He's such an emotive actor that you need to see like every wrinkle on his face like twist as he goes from Norman to Green Goblin.
Exactly. And he just, it's so good.
Yeah.
Even the Sandman and Lizard.
Yeah, they were kind of there, but they were still fun.
They were there, but they were like, okay, like he got something going, like some good banter. It wasn't like, I still remember you.
Yeah,
That's
I really liked how
insane.
Sandman was helping Peter at first because he assumed it was Tobey Maguire Peter.
Yeah, I was like, wait, why is he against the Spider-Man? But I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that shows, and he just wants to get home. So
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, no, it was really well done. And out of everything on my list, it's the thing I want to rewatch the most because I know that
Yeah.
it's going to pay off so well in that second watch of jokes and lines they make and moments. Like I'm looking forward to it.
Like this movie, in terms of audience reaction, like in theater audience reaction,
Yeah.
rivals Endgame.
Yeah. I was in the theater. So I live in a province where theaters are currently closed. And 2 days after I saw Spider-Man, they actually banned popcorn and drinks inside the theater. So the theaters weren't closed. You couldn't buy popcorn. So I saw No Way Home 2 days before that happened. So I was in the theater eating popcorn. The audience cheered when Daredevil showed up. The audience cheered when Andrew Garfield showed up. I love being in an interactive movie crowd like that laughs together, that cries together. I feel in my specific situation, I feel really honored or blessed to have even had that. Because like you said, the movie's still playing in most places, but where I am, you can't see it if you wanted to.
And that, and just how this Omicron variant is happening. And I don't know if they pushed it back because of that, but Morbius is getting pushed back.
Yeah, I saw that.
Granted, not a lot of movies like big blockbusters are happening between January and March. So I'm not gonna say like, well, this is gonna be interesting to see, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna keep my eye on this one.
Yeah, well, I saw that Pixar even announced that their newest movie is going straight to Disney Plus instead of theaters as of right now, Turning Red.
Which makes me turn red because, listen, I get the, I love the accessibility. Families can watch it, but I'm like, this is the third Pixar movie in a row you're doing with this.
Yeah, it's really crazy to me. Well,
but it's like, don't do Pixar dirty like that. But I'm happy that, hey, I'm gonna watch it at home. I'm happy, but just that.
And it's weird that they do that with Pixar, but Encanto was in theaters for a while there, and I think it was in theaters for 2 weeks, then it was on Disney Plus. So that's kind of weird how they do it with Encanto. But anyway, we're off track here. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So
everything was just so good. The banter between all Spider-Man was everything I hoped for and more.
Between like
the pointy thing.
The sore backs, like when they were doing like, oh, my back's really sore. He's like, oh, you have that too? Yeah, me too. This is really hard work. My favorite conversation is when they're talking about, so what bad guys have you fought? Oh, I went to space and fought an alien guy. Oh, cool. I fought a octopus guy. Oh, you guys are so cool. I've only fought a rhinoceros.
I like they're like freaking out because I love like, hey, we haven't worked as a team.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to brag, but I totally am. I was in the Avengers, and Toby's like, that's great.
Is that a band?
Who are they? And Andrew's like, is that a band? Were you in a band? It's like,
it's so fun. It's so much fun all the way through. A couple more like core things about the movie. What do you think about the Tom Holland and Peter Parker and MJ of it all? Because this is the first movie in the trilogy that they've really been together. Yeah. And holy crap, that chemistry. I know they're dating in real life, but It was like my screen in the theater was like smoking. It was just like the chemistry was just too intense.
It's also, I'm not gonna say odd, but when Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone were dating,
Oh, I didn't know they did it.
they dated, you
Oh.
know, uh, during the Amazing Spider. I don't know like when, but they broke up after Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Hmm.
But their chemistry was amazing.
Yeah.
So just when you watch that, but Zendaya and Tom Holland
Yeah.
together,
Yeah. Like
like
that whole.
I felt that, and like,
Yeah.
and I also felt like the awkward Ned scenes of like
Hmm.
him, the third wheel.
Third wheeling. Love it. Because I didn't love their relationship, MJ and Peter's, like in Far From Home, because they weren't dating yet. She didn't know he was Spider Man, all this stuff. It was a lot of like her making fun of him. That was kind of her bit for a long time.
I liked it because it was very awkward high school,
Hmm.
which is very, you know,
But I like that the trilogy made us wait two movies to get the full relation. Like it's like a natural love story. It's not like the Matrix where you watch the whole movie and then the last 5 minutes Neo and Trinity fall in love. And you're like, wait, where was that the whole movie? You got like two movies of tension, and then you got the third movie with the actual payoff.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I really liked it. I thought they were really cute together, and I thought, especially the final moment of the movie where Tom says, "Like I got to do this. You're not gonna know who I am." Like her emotion, his emotion, they just bounce off each other so well.
It's just so good, and just that heartbreak
Hmm.
of not like they don't know, including Ned and Happy in the whole world,
Yeah,
like who he is, and him like trying to tell her, but like he also sees like he's happy, and he's just like
yeah,
Tom Holland. Like, of course, he kills it
yeah,
the entire movie, but just that scene,
yeah.
and I
Totally.
love the ending scene because that felt like Spider-Man.
Yeah,
He gets his apartment is crappy,
yeah.
especially compared to Happy's bunker.
Was it Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire that he lived in the crappy apartment and like the landlord lived across the hallway with the daughter that, or was that
Yeah,
number 3 maybe?
that
I
was 2 and 3.
The apartment that Tom Holland gets, I was like, is this the same apartment that Toby was in Spider-Man 2? It looks the exact same cramped sizing.
If they did that, they would definitely bring back. I don't know if he's morbid. I don't even know if he's alive. I
Yeah.
think he's alive, but it's like they would bring him back because he's such a meme.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'd hope so.
But just like him, you know, he still has the mementos from Ned with
Hmm.
the Emperor and the star, like the cup of coffee from MJ.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's on his own, living
Yeah.
paycheck to paycheck, sewing up his own outfit, which I want that in Marvel Spider-Man 2.
Hmm.
Please give me that outfit.
My favorite interpretation of Peter Parker is he is Spider-Man. He's the guy who saves the day, but he's so broke he has to like dumpster dive for pizza.
And that is the
That's my
Parker look.
favorite. I love that so
Exactly.
much. In the
This
Insomniac
felt like,
game, he is so broke. It's so funny.
and that felt like the comics. And like
Yeah.
watching that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is more motivation for me to read the comics.
Yeah.
And since I have like the top 3 or 4 like comic recommendations, read Ultimate Spider-Man.
Ultimate Spider-Man. Okay, cool.
It's a whole run by Brian Michael Bendis.
Okay.
Marvel did the imprint of like Ultimate Marvel. This is not in continuity. This is a whole separate thing. What if the Marvel characters were introduced in 2000
Oh,
when it was
interesting.
published?
Yeah.
The only downside is a lot of outdated references,
Oh, that'd be big.
including Hulk wants Freddie Prince Jr.
Oh, weird. Okay.
That's a
We
whole other thing.
we can probably delete if we're gonna delete some content. That can probably go. I think.
Or a Child of Rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, especially after Fire Fest. I still
Yeah.
love you, Freddie Prince Jr. and Sarah Michelle
There we go.
Gellar. Okay. But
I've
it tracks him like in high school, a lot of Parker luck, and it's so bingeable, and
yeah.
it's such a complete story. Even though it's 140 issues or
Hmm.
something like that, you keep on reading. It's like watching a show, and you never get sick of it.
Yeah. That's incredible.
But Spider-Man, No Way Home, delivered in so many ways, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to see the future of Spider-Man because we
Yeah.
mentioned Venom, and I'm like, wait, how does he like? that's probably the one criticism. There's a lot of plot holes.
Yeah, you listen. I had to
But
overlook
then
a
you
lot. Yeah.
you just brush it to the side. You focus on the blip.
The thing is, if I'm having a good enough time, I can easily overlook plot details and stuff like that.
Exactly. There's so much good that outweighs the
Yeah.
bad.
So I got kind of two more. I got one kind of one off comment, and then I guess one more question about the series. I loved when he went to school, and it was
Martin
Martin
Starr and like
Starr.
all just like their teachers. He's like,
Hannibal Buress is like is the Morpheus defender. Boo,
yeah,
Morpheus was right.
Morphe. You've been watching too much Matrix. Mysterio.
Oh my god. I literally watched Matrix Reloaded last night, so you are definitely right.
But
Mysterio.
Mysterio's right.
Yeah.
And it's like in between his JB Smooth is like trying to be like in between, but
Yeah.
Martin Starr's like, I made this for you. Like,
Hey,
you want to call him Walls or like Swain? Just
go ahead. We
You're
know
a
you can
hero.
do it. You
Yeah.
know you can do it, so you can just do it.
And just Matt Murdock, seeing him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was so good. He
Sorry,
caught the brick.
And I love how'd you do that? And he was already talking about like how he got out of trouble, and he's like, I'm a really good roller.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all it takes.
For me, if that is something I have to mention at the very end, it's like, oh, I forgot about this. About the
That's
return
crazy.
of Daredevil. That's how good this movie is. That's why it's my number one.
Yeah. And the last question I would have for you. Everyone's memory has been wiped of Peter Parker. Even Happy doesn't know who he is when they meet at Aunt May's tombstone at the end of the movie. Very sad. What is next for this version of Peter Parker? Because is it confirmed that we get 3 more? We're getting another trilogy?
So
with Tom
I think
Holland?
Amy Pascal said there's another trilogy, and then like someone walked back.
Okay.
But you gotta imagine after this smash box office hit, there is another one.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen? Or is there a certain story that you think that would naturally make sense to pick up right now? Or
Well, because it's very different from how it happens in the comics. We saw Venom. He's getting a recap of the MCU.
yeah.
And then he's like, no, I gotta find this Spider-Man guy.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to his universe, but a little bit of that symbiote is still there. And his one goal is to find Spider-Man.
Yep.
We're gonna get Black Symbiote.
Yep.
So I hope it's in multiple movies. Like he's in Avengers, he's using it.
Yeah. That'd be sick.
I think he goes to college.
Yeah. Goes to college in his nice new symbiote suit.
Well, not the whole time. It's like
I
just revealed like the whole. It's like I walked back to my comments.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, I'm Spider-Man. It's like,
yeah.
What did you do that for?
So yeah, the symbiote obviously is a good place for it to pick up with it taking over a Venom, or like is there going to be a new Venom for him to fight?
I think there is, and I actually do like Tom Hardy as Venom, even though it's wild and crazy, but
it's
unique.
weird. Yeah,
I want like the MCU Venom.
Yeah,
him going to college, him meeting. Does he see MJ again? Do we introduce new Gwen? Who knows?
That'd be interesting. So I was talking to my partner on the way to the movie, but like, what's your big prediction? Like, what's the thing that you think will happen that nobody else is talking about? And for me, it was like, you know what? Wouldn't it be crazy if they introduced Miles in this movie? If Miles Morales also came out of a portal, he's not Peter Parker, but if he also got sucked in somehow,
it would be so amazing if it was Donald Glover.
Oh, don't even get me started. I mean, technically in the MCU, Donald Glover plays Miles's uncle, right? Yes. Okay. Yeah. But
he was rumored before Garfield. It's actually more fans wanted him to be Miles.
Yeah.
Or actually, I don't even know if Miles actually came out at that point.
I don't know if it has either. Yeah. But
anyway, yeah.
I feel like they alluded to it. There's a couple times where Jamie Foxx says, "Man, I wish there was a Black Spider-Man," and I was like, "Dude, you're so close. There is, and hopefully he shows up soon." Because that game is really good, and Spider-Verse is really good, and Miles needs a moment to shine in the MCU, I think.
And it's interesting because won't spoil the events of what happens to the Peter Parker in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Sure.
But then afterwards, it's Miles, and that's where he got introduced. And his run is great. And, fans liked him, positive reception. But then into the Spider-Verse, and then the Spider-Man game, and then his own game has elevated him to, like, money.
Yeah, he's like legendary status right now. Just crazy. But hopefully soon we'll see him.
So that's all from Spider-Man. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that we are pretty much good. We're running a bit long here. I told Mark messaged me. He was like, "Do you want to do TV shows and movies separately?" And like, trust me, we'll spend 5 minutes on each, and it'll be like an hour and a half
And I didn't
episode.
want to like be rude to be like, "Do you not know me?"
I I don't even know myself. I don't think. I think truly I underestimated how much I wanted to talk about this stuff, and
Because
it's
you're
so much
like,
fun
and
doing
let's
it.
talk about the year upcoming. And I'm
No,
like,
we're not doing. No, 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 no,
no. I will tell you one
no,
thing. Black Panther will not come out this year.
no. It's
That's it. It's
2023.
2023. I don't even know what's gonna happen with Lita Wright.
Yeah.
Not even the
Well,
injury, but just like the anti-vax and like the
yeah.
restrictions. Um,
Letitia Wright's been a bit controversial in general, so I don't know if they even want her as the new face of.
exactly, which
Yeah.
she should have been. I'll give like quick things.
Yeah.
Heavy rumored Matt Murdock will appear in She-Hulk. I've been
Hmm.
already excited about that. He's going to
I
pop
think
up in the MCU.
to interject, She-Hulk is probably my most anticipated thing of next year for Marvel. I just wish it was called Better Call She-Hulk. That's my
Oh,
only
that would have been
complaint.
cool.
But besides that,
Uh,
I'm all in.
and most anticipated movie, just off the top of my head, Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, 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 me too. I think I'm without even a trailer for it yet. My imagination is going crazy.
Just like set pics and a promo art of
Yeah,
Lady Thor.
yeah, Lady
Was like,
Thor.
I'm like, and it's Taika Waititi again.
We
Boom,
should get
I'm
some.
in.
We should get some Guardians in this movie too, right? Because last we saw Thor, he was taking
That
off
was in
on.
the
Yeah,
set photo. At least
yeah.
Chris Pratt returns.
I like Star Lord and Thor's masculine peeing contest of like, no, I'm actually the captain. He's like, oh, sure you are.
Yeah, but come on.
Yeah. So real quick, let's go through our lists, and I'll go first. My number 9 was Black Widow. My number 8 was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. My number 7 was What If. Number 6 was Shang-Chi. Number 5 was Wanda Vision. Number 4 was Loki. 3 was Hawkeye. 2 was Spider-Man, and my number 1 was Eternals. Mark, what was your list again?
My number 9 was What If. My number 8 was Black Widow. Number 7, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Number 6, your number 1, Eternals. Number 5, Shang-Chi. Number 4, Hawkeye. Number 3, WandaVision. Number 2, Loki. And number 1, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for making the time to go over this with me.
Thank you. I'm gonna down tea. I'm very scared about losing my voice. Which not that. It's just more like in this day and age, you don't want to sound sick.
No, you don't want to. You don't even want to sneeze. Like I have allergies, so when I'm at the grocery store and I have a sneeze come out, I'm like, oh, everyone's staring at me now.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah. So this was kind of a one-off episode for us, but I would love to talk to you more about Marvel movies and TV shows as they come out. Maybe we can do some more podcasts, just doing like talking about them as they are released.
yeah, absolutely. And also some DC stuff because if you thought I loved Marvel, oh no.
Well, we got the Batman coming up in March, and that movie, I watched the trailer for it maybe 5 times a week.
I was just gonna say we're definitely gonna do a spoiler cast that you did not approve yet, but yeah, we are.
Okay, perfect. I already
on.
approve.
Yes.
So throughout the year, our plan is to hopefully do more gaming stuff, more movie stuff, more TV stuff. Next week, we will be back for a full-on gaming episode, talking about our most anticipated games of 2022. Stay tuned for that next week. Everyone who stayed this long, thank you so much. Mark, do you have any last-minute plugs?
Just to answer that
Oh,
podcast, I'm so excited for Horizon Forbidden
yeah.
West.
Yeah.
Elden Ring, because
Yep.
off of your our last podcast,
Mhm.
I played Demon Souls, so I'm all in.
Hell yeah.
And then I hope it comes out this year. God of War Ragnarok.
Yep. And Breath of the Wild 2. Come on.
Yay.
Yay.
But I would
Yeah.
love it came out this year. But anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at LilMarco512.
Okay,
And
perfect.
That's it for me.
Awesome. If you haven't already, please go to KeenGamer.com where you can read all of our articles about games, movies, and TV shows. Thank you so much for listening to this very long show. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you all again next week. Have a good day, everyone. Goodbye.